Stop that. Stop that. Stop that. Yeah. I hear him chat to the noise. Move too quick, can't stop for the talking. I hear him chat with the walking. Just too sharp with the prize. White girls let it tell me I'm awesome. Yeah. Hot like fire on the pan. If you wanna touch my please use caution. Cold like 0 degrees. I'm out the cage, gotta let out the beast. Revolutionary, gotta let out the streets. Locked in a cage, I'ma let out the sheets. We came for one man, forget my peace. You take the west, I'll take on the east. I'ma put him in the cage, never let out the. I hear him chat to the noise. Move too quick, can't stop for the talking. I hear him chat with the boys. Man so tough, but mans keep walking. Yeah, just too sharp with the prize. White girls, let it tell me I'm awesome. Yeah, hot like fire on the pan. If you wanna touch me, please use caution. Stop that. Stop that. Stop that.
I need some help from the group here because Greg Cote is a bit cantankerous this morning because he's a little surrounded today and tomorrow. Zaslow, his sworn enemy, is going to be on the show tomorrow, and Greg Cote and Zaslow have beef. And now we've reached out to Billy Corbin, who, of course, is very busy at City Hall because he always is, and we're trying to get a hold of him to talk.
What the hell's he doing at City Hall? Billy Corbin.
What do you mean? What's he doing in City Hall? Don't you
Greg
imagine him
brings
to
up a good
always
point.
be at City Hall?
But
What is
Greg
he,
brings
the
up a
mayor?
good point. Like, he's just there. He's not.
Isn't there a meeting?
I'm sure there is
he's
a
not
meeting.
voting. He's not voting on anything.
Don't you understand? Billy Corbin is South Florida's self-appointed watchdog, looking out over everything, protecting all of our rights. He's at City Hall waiting for some controversy to happen. Good for you, Billy. Keep it up.
So, like I said, he's cantankerous, and he has called Billy Corbin a jackass before on the air, and he's asked me not to inflame that situation. But how do I not inflame that situation when I'm an inflamer? And also when he's coming on with us in a little bit to talk about this O Cinema story where you've got boycotts and protests over an Oscar-winning movie that's being played, and the mayor of Miami Beach is looking to shut down an independent theater. I wanted to talk to Billy Corbin about that. What do I do with Greg Cote here saying this was his life philosophy. If you treat me like a jackass, then I think you're a jackass. And so he didn't have any problem. It's like I've said before with Edwin Pope and other columnists. When someone of his stature does something that out of character, to call someone publicly a jackass, it gets my attention more than if a random person is doing it because he does it pretty infrequently. But I feel like Billy Corbin is someone here who is almost universally annoying while always fighting for the right things. So I don't know.
That's subjective. It's super subjective.
To who?
Even to those on the left, it's subjective.
I want to hear Tony's reason why.
I'm good.
I don't dislike Billy Corbin. He has publicly disrespected me, and I think the human nature. I think all of us might agree. If somebody disrespects you and is against you, you tend not to like them a lot, and you tend to get your back up and say, all right, you're going to call me this and this, I'm going to call you that and that.
It is funny how it couldn't be further away from politics, my dad's reason for hating Corbin.
Well, but no,
it's all personal.
No, but there is something here. You say it's all personal, and this one's always interesting to me because that one's subjective, where people say in these kinds of conversations, hey, don't do anything personal, and then everyone has a different definition for how they take things personally. The source of this is that Billy Corbin didn't want the Marlins to get that stadium, and Greg Cote was rah-rahing on behalf of his business, being fine with the taxpayers paying so that the Marlins could have a stadium. That before the show, I saw Fuentes and Mike Ryan and a bunch of people screaming at each other as Mike Ryan claimed that LoanDepot Park, wasn't up to his standards.
It's a hole. It's a hole. It's an assault on the senses too. All these different colors, and I know that they changed the apple green walls, which were just horrendous to look at. But it's just there's this constant ambient hum. The food options stink.
Yeah.
The sight lines are no good.
The sight lines are fine.
No, I hate
it's
the
designed
sight
to be a baseball stadium. You can see the field from every
You know what's
spot
designed to
the
be a baseball stadium? Camden Yards. That's designed to be a baseball stadium.
I'm not arguing that LoanDepot Park is a top whatever ballpark in all of sports. I'm just saying we're being affected by how bad the Marlins are. If the Marlins were in the playoffs the last 10 years, we would feel differently about this ballpark.
It's not a great park.
I gotta say, I never liked it from like opening day on, and I was someone that was a proponent of it, even though that meant tearing down the Orange Bowl. And I got there, I'm like, this is what they decided to do with it.
What started this debate is there was a Google, Yelp, they kind of formulated all the reviews from all the stadiums in the NFL, NBA, and MLB, and they ranked 90 stadiums. And Kaseya Center, the Heat's arena, is a top 10 arena, according to reviews. And LoanDepot and Hard Rock were 62, 63 out of 90.
Yeah, but I mean, we don't have to rehash this whole thing. But the controversy around LoanDepot Park wasn't because it was ugly or like the walls were a bad color. Like, you understand that, right, Chris?
We all know that.
So, like, the wins and losses thing, like, that doesn't really change the reality of how the park ended up where it is.
Yeah, but, I mean, that's already known. That, like, I understand they
but
didn't
that
charge
was
the
where
taxpayers.
this whole
it was a tourist
conversation
tax,
started, right? Isn't that why Greg and
That's
David
the
don't
personal
get along?
nature of the beef starts there, and I don't think that there's anything else to it other than that.
Well, I was one of the few people in this market who was a proponent of them getting that stadium built. And the difference between Corbin and I on this particular topic is that he thinks I should have been protecting the taxpayers of Miami-Dade by questioning the deal and how much money and who was paying this and how much taxes were going. And that's up to the politicians. My job as a sports columnist in this market, I think, in this case, was to be a proponent for the new stadium they needed to keep the team down here. They got it built, and that's actually, although it's a controversial one, that's actually the only positive legacy of Lauria's time here as the primary owner, or at least it's the biggest one, along with one World Series.
Well, when you say
disbanded the team.
Well, when you say though the one positive, and you guys in the other room say Billy Corbin, according to whom, is on the right side of things. Billy Corbin is perpetually fighting corruption. He's on the right side of perpetually fighting corruption. You can have your issues with all of the other activisms, depending on whether your political leanings are one way or the other. But there is no disputing that he's one of the few vigorous and vigilant about holding public officials accountable on how it is that they're supposed to behave with the public's money as servants. That's not up for dispute, correct? Right. No one here would dispute that portion of it. That's not subjective.
No, and I agree that looking back, there was malfeasance on the part of Miami and Miami-Dade politicians to get fleeced by Jeffrey Loria. It was Jeffrey Loria is a businessman and a pretty good one. His job is to get the best deal he can, and boy, did he.
That's correct. But when you guys say, and I ask, Billy Corbin tends to be correct. When it comes to this thing, it's been an enormous waste of money locally. It's not just that our politicians got taken. It's that the sport's only alive here barely and not functioning as a business in any reasonable way because they got that stadium. Otherwise, they'd be in the situation the A's are in.
Local governments misappropriate funds all the time. It's one thing to say flatly that money was used for a waste when you have no idea what that money would have gone to. You can have an idea, but you also have less say in the matter when this is something that was actually on the ballot.
That's crazy logic, though. Like, a city shouldn't waste money because they'll just end up wasting it on something else.
I'm saying that stadium referendums are one of the few times that you can actually vote on these things and you can actually see whether or not and decide whether or not this is a good allocation, when a lot of times they do stuff with autonomy or just commissioners do it. My big issue was they got the stadium, they cried poor, and then they sold the team that they spent a lot of money for right then and there. They made the Blue Jays trade, which I know in retrospect they ended up winning, but we don't need to litigate all this stuff. And yeah, while I agree that Billy is generally on the right side of corruption, how he goes about doing things rubs certainly a lot of people the wrong way. He's a rabble-rouser.
The state of the Marlins today is a whole the sad state of the Marlins today is a whole different subject. Bruce Sherman's one of the worst owners in all of sports. He's spending one-third of what he needs to be spending just to compete. But the stadium itself...
To not even compete.
Right. The stadium itself, I think, is very good. Looking at it from the macro, the retractable roof was a very smart idea, not a necessary idea. It overlooks the Miami skyline. It's a very pretty vista when you're at that stadium. They don't fill it because they have a lousy team, because they don't spend, but that's 10 years, 15 years after the
We're
stadium.
going to talk to David Samson about this in about 30 minutes. He built that stadium. One of the most amazing things I've ever seen in South Florida business is the fact that he got that thing built and on time and with no overruns in this city, because, yes, those people are very good at business.
We're going for likable this morning, huh?
Billy Corbin going to join us at some point from City Hall. But you guys have it right when you say sometimes he's just hanging around City Hall, because he's like something out of a Carl Hiaasen novel in that Xavier Suarez did pull into his parking spot the other day, and Billy Corbin's like leaning against City Hall for no particular reason, just shouting at him, "Hey, Mayor." Tony, what are you shaking your head about?
I'm not shaking my head
you
about
were
anything,
shaking
Dan.
your head about
No,
something.
I was
Your head
reading
was
something
shaking.
in the chat. No, shout out to the chat, by the way.
It's a
We love
safe
everybody
space,
in the
Tony.
chat.
Tony, you have a lot of opinions. You have been saying them nonstop since the show started, but none of them have been into a microphone.
Wow.
Let's not do that.
Corruption doesn't usually happen at City Hall. It happens outside of City Hall. So go to other places around and try to figure that out. They happen in the back rooms of restaurants and things like
So
that.
are we sure he's there because of the politicians or the fact that their microphone's there?
We will ask him that. I don't believe that those who live in ass houses should be throwing stones. We like our microphones too around here. It's not like anybody here has any complaints about microphones.
Speaking of which, we need to get Taylor in here to talk about the North Carolina game last night.
He's always in here. He's not ready to go yet.
How about that?
Taylor, get
Bob?
up.
He's still rubbing his nipples.
Where are all the critics now? Where are you, Mayor of Governor of West Virginia? How bad is North Carolina now? They kicked ass. They had a statement to make, and they made it in capital letters. Go Tar Heels.
Who'd they make it against?
You know, some team I'd never heard of. It was a
Never
playoff.
heard of.
They made a Final Four like 2 years ago.
Oh,
Come
San
on.
Diego State. Yeah, it was the UM Final Four, where UM tanked and everybody else stayed good. They didn't tank intentionally. Tanking
Team
sounds,
I've never heard of.
No, I mean, it's a play-in game is what I mean. But give North Carolina credit. Everybody maligns them, saying they didn't deserve to be here, and they sort of made a statement for themselves. Good for them.
You seem to be very vibrant on behalf of North Carolina, the last team to make the tournament.
Yeah. Well, because they were maligned, which means unfairly criticized.
Not unfairly. Not unfairly when you're 1-12.
Okay, they ended their regular season or the playoff ACC by almost beating a great Duke team. How did West Virginia end their season?
I really hate it had to be San Diego State. Such a scrappy underdog program. They do everything the right way. But what we had to do was put their head on a stake and remind everybody who North Carolina is. And that's exactly what we did.
Hello.
We're on to Ole Miss.
Preach. Let's go.
On to Ole Miss.
They're going to make a run. UNC is going to make a big, long run.
I want to ask all of you here, sports fans, the folks who over the years have gotten more than a little annoyed when you say likable and unlikable, of this show and what it's been regarding the Miami Heat for 15 years. I believe that there is audience here today exclusively to find out how we feel about Jimmy Butler leading the Warriors last night in a way that he plays the entire fourth quarter. He gets a bunch of free throws. Steph is not needed. They beat Milwaukee. They beat Dame. They're beating Dame and Giannis, and they're doing so going through Jimmy Butler with Draymond Green holding Giannis to 0 for 6. Jimmy Butler must haunt Giannis. Giannis must be haunted by everything Jimmy Butler. Draymond Green says, hey, Wemby's out. I want to be Defensive Player of the Year again because he shuts down Giannis. Okay, no, shuts down Giannis, and then after the game, Jimmy Butler is saying not only can he do that to anybody, he demands that no one help him with it. He does not want any help. He gets insulted by Draymond Green. Old as he is, annoying as he is, still plays defense at a level that is insane.
And he's flying up the Defensive Player of the Year rankings. And odds on, he's second odds on favorite right now to win at plus 650 on DraftKings. Evan Mobley's the only one ahead of it, minus 275. Maybe 3 weeks ago, maybe a month ago, he wasn't even on the board.
And I'm wondering if to the group here, this feels like if you're an ex in a relationship, you see your ex out with somebody else, and all of a sudden it seems like they have a more passionate relationship than the one that you had. And all of a sudden you find yourself longing for everything that's happening over there because the Warriors are 14-2. And now when Steph is tired, because this part was interesting. So Steve Kerr says yesterday, Steph's tired. He's exhausted. He's carried us for a month. Steph has 7 turnovers in a game. Can't make anything. Says I'm not tired. Says it's my back. My back hurts. And Kerr is saying it's from carrying the team. Now you bring someone in. Jimmy Butler never had something like Steph here. Jimmy Butler, everyone here was begging the Heat to get him something better than Jimmy Butler, so then Jimmy Butler could be that on select occasions when it's needed. So when you see that happen last night, your feelings are what?
I don't feel like a jilted ex-lover. I don't. I feel like it's like the Tom Brady quote about his marriage. They put out a joint statement. Our marriage did not fail. It was a successful marriage. I think I'm pretty confident, unless he has an Andre Iguodala-type finals that's paired up with a Steph Curry-type finals where he wins an MVP in an NBA Finals. He's going to be remembered as a member of the Miami Heat. When people close their eyes and they think of Jimmy Butler, the image that they're probably going to get is him bent over a scorer's table in the bubble in a Miami Heat uniform. He went to 2 finals down here. It was a great time. He proved that he can be the best player on the team that went to multiple finals. And I'm very secure in it, and I'm actively rooting for him to win that championship so that can't be held against his brilliant career.
I think when people think of Jimmy Buffett, I say that all the time, Jimmy Butler in Miami, they're going to think of the burned bridge, which is still smoldering. And then they're going to think, you know what? Jimmy Butler was right after all, because he's so fit for that role in Golden State where he doesn't have to be the best player anymore. He did have to be the best player in Miami, and although he had a fairly successful run here, it wasn't ultimately successful, and the Heat failed to make him the second best player on the team. And they're still looking for an elite player who's going to be the best player on the team, because it's not Bam and it's not Hero and it wasn't Jimmy Butler. That's the problem with the Heat right now. They're stagnating without a premier player.
Again, though, 11 for 11 from the line, plays the whole fourth quarter, and every play in the fourth quarter is run through him.
Yeah, he's going to be great, I think, for them during this window, and then maybe next season it won't be as great, and then it'll just keep declining. I think he's got one more run in him, and I'm hopeful to see that. I think if they have a good run and he's really good in the postseason, then even though it's part of the narrative down here locally, people will look back on his time, especially if he becomes an NBA champion, and his time in a Heat uniform will be remembered for the Miami Heat specifically failing him, and that'll become the narrative.
The part that I wanted to talk with you guys about, though, because the league has been taken away from Steph Curry. The way that you honor the back end of his career, one of the most amazing things any of us have ever seen anywhere across sports, the existence of Steph Curry. The way that you protect his aging when the Van Gundys say the hardest thing to do in coaching is to coach the aging superstar. That thing in Golden State that features Draymond Green and Jimmy Butler. My question to you guys is, how does all of that age when both of them are unwilling, reluctant to give up who they've always been because they're in their later 30s, and at some point there has to be a diminishment. Draymond Green already at this point is only a defensive player. We laugh at him in every other respect because he is largely offensively washed, but he does one thing is the fuel of that thing, and when it's not working right, he'll punch you in the face. And so that's opposite Jimmy Butler. And so what you have, a lot of people feel this way. Sam Morrill was on with us. This is what he had to say about Draymond Green and just the very idea that he would say that Cat was avoiding Jimmy Butler in a game between the Knicks and the Warriors. And then afterward, the Knicks players were dapping up Draymond Green instead of defending their teammate.
Draymond bothers me. And you said he apologized. He didn't apologize. He gave a Draymond apology. He bothers me. The podcast he has bothers me because he brought in Baron Davis to make himself more likable. He's not likable. He's terrible at broadcasting. He lacks charisma. The way Shaq and Barkley ball bust, Draymond can't. He's not able to do that. He's like the kid who thinks he can ball bust, but then says, like, your mom has cancer. And you're like, that's not a joke that she actually does have cancer. That's like his sense of humor. He sucks. He's mentally ill. If he was a football player, he'd be Antonio Brown by now. He's unhinged. He has like the ego of like, it's like if Ringo Starr was the biggest dick in the Beatles, you know? Like, it's weird that Paul, George, and John are nice, and then Ringo's a dick.
I don't think you can just accuse him of being mentally ill. I think that's a bit irresponsible.
Okay, he's got all his marbles. You think he's not mentally ill?
I don't know. I don't know that. I'm not comfortable just saying that about somebody. Yeah. Certainly, the resume has a lot of behavior that's unstable on it.
Yeah, I mean, he's just upset that Rudy Gobert, it's not Rudy Gobert's fault. He keeps winning Defensive Player of the Years, and he just like puts him in a sleeper hold. That's not the behavior of someone who's got it all together. It bothered me that the Knicks dapped him up. I think if Jalen Brunson was there, it would have been a different vibe. I didn't like that.
Not pictured Commissioner Gordon. Dan, first and foremost, let me say I'm proud of you and the growth that you've made over the last week on journalistic responsibility. That's huge. I'm glad that you corrected Sam on saying that wasn't fair to label Draymond Green as mentally ill. That is great work out of you. And also, Sam, I'm pretty sure you'd love Draymond if he were a New York Knick. There's so many of those guys. Like, there's one in Brad Marchand and Matthew Tkachuk, also on the Florida Panthers, that you hate them if they're not on your team. You love them if they're on your team.
But rare for two to be on the same team, aging at the same rate is what I'm saying.
Yeah,
too.
I mean, Jimmy's a different type of player. He brings more to the table offensively. But Draymond, like, he has his role offensively. I get what you're saying. And look, it's working now. We'll see what happens in the playoffs.
I'm not actually even questioning it. I'm just super interested in seeing how all of it plays out, because you've got the thing that made me think of it is I'm assuming that everyone listening to this knows what it feels like to have somebody in your workplace, one person in a workplace who you think, like Greg Cody thinks of Billy Corbin, that guy, that person's a jackass. But when there are two of them in a small workspace, and they're two of the ones in the league that we all look at and say, that's the top of the food chain on like people others wouldn't want to play with. I think it's a fascinating bet that Golden State is making on pressing the gas on, we got a couple of months to figure this out for Steph. We can't even take next year for granted. We'll give Jimmy the extension, but this is about right now. Can we take out OKC before OKC becomes too good to take out?
What's the longest Jimmy Butler has ever been paired on a team with someone that is obviously greater than him? The flash that D. Wade had, no pun intended, in Chicago.
That locker room had all sorts of problems between him, Rondo, and Wade.
He gravitated towards Wade, and like it was the vets against the young guys, but he was still younger in his career, and everybody knew that Dwayne Wade was historically the greater player then. Then in Philadelphia, you can argue that Embiid was going to be was the better player on that team, but that was a short-term deal. So kind of blessed in his career. He rubs people the wrong way, but he also has the benefit of being able to do that while he is very clearly the alpha of the team.
But this is what I'm talking to you guys about when I say the Van Gundy say the hardest thing to coach is the aging superstar, because confidence is the last thing, and the mirror is the last thing to know. And so Jimmy Butler's not going to concede to anybody. He's not going to concede. But if he's the team player everyone thinks that he is, this is a fairly self-aware, easy genuflect to make. I'm going to Steph's team.
Right.
This is all this. I got my money, and now I'm here to get. I'm here to go 11 for 11 on free throws. And if they need me in the fourth quarter because Steph can't carry us, I'll play the entire fourth quarter and have all the plays run through me.
I think the other thing too is having Steve Kerr in that locker room to kind of like get the tensions down a little bit. Obviously, Steve Kerr does a lot of stuff with USA Basketball, has the ability and has the track record of coaching some of these monster personalities and monster players. And it's like, all right, Jimmy, this is Steph's team. You know that. You're coming in, but I can help you kind of fit in the way that you would if it was like a super team like a USA Basketball or something like that.
Except for one very famous example where it didn't work
Well,
out.
I mean, that wasn't his fault, though.
I wanted to ask the group, though, because I'm guilty of something here that I see as a great source of conflict in the NBA and at the top of the NBA pyramid, media pyramid. Right now, you've got an interesting thing happening in the content game where Barkley and Shaq have kind of been running it for a really long time. And there are plenty of new voices in basketball who are tired of the old voices, no matter how popular they are to us. And they get bothered by things like Shaq being on Inside the NBA and being able to get away with not knowing who the coach of the Pistons is, not watching the Pistons, and criticizing a team that's one of the better ones in the league this year because we hang on to the things we've been talking about for 20 years. Steph and LeBron. Michelle Beadle was on the other day saying when Barkley said, those fools at ESPN who are just talking Lakers LeBron all the time. She ran afoul of LeBron while at ESPN, and she's saying, yes, we were all fools and are fools, the way that we just keep talking about LeBron all the time instead of celebrating this new generation of players, because it's easier to talk about the thing you've always talked about than to talk about OKC or Minnesota or even Denver somehow because their star's not interesting enough for us. But Barkley calls Kendrick Perkins a fool, and then the retort from Kendrick Perkins is this: hey, NBA on TNT, might want to tell that senior citizen Charles Barkley that I'll be around. When he sees an idiot or fool in person, make sure he keeps that same energy. Straight from the 409 homeboy, and we bar none and fade all. Hashtag Texas boy. I read
really
that quickly because I didn't want to read that. Yes, you see right through me, Jessica. You couldn't have noticed that from the
It's very
speed with
awkward.
which
You didn't have to read it. Greg, how do you feel about him using senior citizen as a sort of slur in that post?
I think it's a clever slur. I mean, is he 65? How old is Barkley? I don't even know.
Isn't he 60? I think he just turned 60.
Okay, I think that's a broad parameter of the phrase senior citizen.
62.
See, this is all great, though. It's great for everybody. It's great for all the networks involved, all the principals involved. Like I said the other day, controversy is good in almost every instance, particularly when you're speaking into a microphone.
Okay, you know? but you guys think I mean, I understand what is happening in the entirety of the content space, not just sports, but documentaries and people's lack of use for independent freedom, not former player. The idea that Charles Barkley is critical of you and your coverage and that the response is make sure that when we're in front of each other, you might be ready to fight, that's a new thing. Like, that's not how we've done that before when the media is talking about the games and the criticism is going back and forth between two entities. In this case, we're going to work together next year if Charles decides that he wants to be there with these people. And it can all be wrestling, but I'm just curious if you guys care at all that it all becomes wrestling.
That's Perk being Perk. Perk goes at people like that all the time, and I don't actually think they have to work together. It seems like they're licensing TNT's coverage, right? So they get to operate in their silo. They don't actually ever have to interface with ESPN's NBA team, which history tells us will change again. Like it's cute for Perkins to get involved in there, and I understand where he's coming from and defending himself. But I'm old enough to remember NBA Finals that John Barry was a key analyst for. You know, like Jalen, Antonio Davis, they come and go, and you know, it's very transient over there. And if they actually have an anchor in TNT's coverage, I would try to ingratiate myself over to that. Otherwise, you may end up looking like Lance Stevenson going up against LeBron.
I also wouldn't assume genuine anger on either side. I think when these guys see each other, they're going to shake hands. They're going to have a little giggle. Hey, this was all a bit. You're a good guy. Clap each other on the back and move on. I don't think that they're really that angry.
Okay, well, but the thing that I'm asking you about, all of you, is back when we were the young, different thing, we were doing the bit to everybody because they were doing the serious thing. Now everyone's good with bit? Like we're good with what sports.
We're asking this?
I'm asking.
I'm doing bit now.
I'm asking.
I am actively doing bit.
I am asking. You know what? I'm going to hold on a second. I've asked enough times for you guys to stop explaining the show here that
Major penalty, 5 minutes, screaming comedy.
I don't need to hear anyone's actively doing bit ever again from anyone on the show.
That's weird.
The idea that two major media figures would go back and forth with beef is something I enjoy as content. Why have you not left yet? Why are you still here?
Was that okay?
Yeah, that was
I'll
for
leave.
you. Yes.
He thought that was
So
a
you
bit.
want me to
Pointing at me?
You want me to go to a fake penalty box?
Whoa!
Not doing
What do you
bit.
mean it's fake? It's not fake. What do you mean it's fake?
real.
Get out of here.
5-minute penalty.
It's a 5-minute penalty and it's not fake.
You did the crime, now do the time.
Somebody's listening right now like, wait, what?
I genuinely thought you were doing that to yourself.
Okay, that's good that that's what you thought. That you can leave now.
But why would he be doing it to himself?
Why do any of us?
I enjoy this. Does the audience? We're good with the trade, right? Because obviously a portion of this is personal to me, right? I kind of liked when ESPN allowed the journalists to have the strength. I've also been actively and publicly cheerleading for all of the athletes running into the space to make it a democracy. But when they do so, what you get is documentaries that aren't actually the truth. They're just sort of documentaries that have access because we're blurring the line on some of where these conflicts are in the business economy of this. So when Beadle, as JJ Redick says, yeah, ESPN is just forcing LeBron on you through topics, like we're forced to do that as a topic, because same way you do Tebow. And I'm asking you guys, do you do the sport the right service when you're doing wrestling character about the guy you've been talking about for 20 years and ignoring that the MVP is in Oklahoma City because you don't know how to talk about that team, even as it runs roughshod over everybody. And even if you do know how to talk about it, your audience doesn't care, and your audience is dictating everything because everyone's fighting over the audience. So you have to talk about the things that's going to get the most people in the tent. But in the transaction, you lose the ability to sell young people anymore. You're just telling the same stories you've been telling for 20 years to the most important demo.
Well, but as the media, we have to do both, right? We have to acknowledge the new wave, and the NBA has a great young wave of stars right now. But people still want to talk about LeBron James. He's a unicorn. He's a one-of-a-kind. And we've done that across time with extraordinary athletes. We talked about Tom Brady nonstop. We talked about Serena Williams even after she was past her prime. We're still talking about Tiger Woods 15 years after his last major win. We do that because these are legendary figures in sports. Why wouldn't we talk about them? And LeBron James, since they added Doncic, that's a good team right now. It's a little bit of a renaissance for the Lakers, which is a major franchise. We always talk about the Yankees. We talk about big franchises and big players, and I don't apologize for that.
Tiger Woods won a major in 2019.
Point still stands, though, Greg. But I think it's all part of the issue that First Take kind of put everybody in, where it's like, we're going to talk about LeBron, and Skip is going to argue with Stephen A., and we're just going to have this be debate culture. And all of a sudden, now we're seeing the seeds of that 10, 15 years down the line where, yeah, all we can kind of do is talk about LeBron, right? Nick Wright, who's now one of these new voices of the generation, continues the propaganda of talking about LeBron. When are we going to talk about Jokic? When are we going to talk about SGA? When is that going to happen? Who's going to bring that to the forefront where the casual fan's going to be able to understand that?
Jason Tatum is listening and watching the coverage of him, a champion. He's done He's done whatever it is he was supposed to do with his talents. He has achieved now. We cannot diminish him in much of any way. He's saying, I don't get my proper respect. Part of that is because we're always talking about the other people. We're refusing in narrative to give the league over to the other people. We'll talk about Anthony Edwards. We'll talk about Ja Morant. But not this way. Not with the stories that we've fallen in love with for 15 years so that we're still talking about the Warriors and Theo Pinson, who is proving to us that there are just too many podcasts. Theo Pinson is out here saying this of Jimmy Butler and the Miami Heat.
The Miami Heat is worse. That is a worse trade than Dallas and the Lakers.
Yes.
By far.
Yeah.
Dallas is just getting cooked by injuries.
I kind of agree with that.
The Heat are healthy.
They suck.
Jimmy Butler was Heat culture.
Yes.
Regardless of what the you thought he was doing off the court, that brought a toughness. He brought a mentality.
Leadership.
He had leadership. Bro, I swear to God, it did not matter what seed the Miami Heat were. If they got in the playoffs, any team that played them,
you didn't want to see
they had to buckle the up.
You didn't want to see
it was
him.
going to be a dogfight.
Theo Pinson played for the Dallas Mavericks, played a couple years in the NBA.
Thank
Cup
you.
of coffee, by the way. Just for those of you out there like, Theo Pinson, I feel like I've heard that name.
I had to
Yeah,
Google
you
that.
have.
Raymond Felton's on that.
Byron Scott has a podcast.
There are a lot of podcasts. What sentence could you put together that would be the funniest there? If I went all in with Byron Scott has a podcast, what are you beating me with as a
Chris, Cody,
as a
Jess, Tony, Tony's brother, Taylor, Billy, Ethan, Mike Fuentes. We have a podcast.
The Greg Cody Show.
That's what's beating that.
Featuring Greg Cody.
Damn right.
Has a podcast. Yeah. In the most recent episode, we've got a best marches, best balls, best brackets, best baskets.
Correct. I'm honored that you remembered all 4 categories.
It seems like a real delight.
It is.
That you just making lists with your son is also proof that there are too many podcasts.
No, now that the window has closed on the voting for the top 5 marches, do you want to reveal the top 5 marches to this audience? You don't remember them, do you?
I don't remember all 5 off the top of my head.
You're the worst. Dude.
I mean, come on. How important are you? Disrespect.
Trying to promote your podcast.
You disrespect the march by not remembering that the Million Man March is among your greatest marches.
No, it actually wasn't.
Stunner.
I can name the march.
Ides of March. Were you there for it?
The what? The Million Man March?
No, the Ides of March.
Oh no, that would have been a good one though.
You were covering it.
That was OLI.
I know 2 of them. You had March of '77 when you lost your virginity,
right?
And then March of 2023 when you and I went to the Final Four.
Right, which was a lovely father-son trip. One of them is Peggy March, Little Peggy March, who had a great million-selling record in the 60s. I will follow him wherever he will go. What were the other marches? Oh, the march in Selma, the mid-60s Selma March for Civil Rights. That was on there. And what was the missing march? You remember? Oh, John Philip Sousa's famous march, the all-time great musical march. So it turns out the winning march, spoiler alert, was me losing my virginity. It won in a landslide. I would have voted for.
This is the new and improved Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugotz. Gamble on by DraftKings.
This segment is presented by LinkedIn Jobs. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/DLS. Terms and conditions apply.
David Samson is here from Nothing Personal. He is doing it every day. It continues to grow, and he covers a ton of stuff that I do not see other people in sports covering, so you should check out Nothing Personal. We have a number of things to talk to you about, David, but I guess the place that I should start is that I just heard Greg Cody and Chris Cody have a conversation in which the following was revealed. And I want to know, at what age will Chris Cody stop doing what I'm about to say, okay? At what age will he be as a son before he stops doing this to his father? His father likes to dictate into the phone instead of texting, just a note to his wife or whomever, hey, I'm going to stop by and grab some avocados, period. And his son shouts from the distance, balls.
To see if it picks it up. And it does sometimes. And it's a laugh riot when it does.
Okay, and so my question to you is when will Chris stop doing that? Like, when is that's off limits at some age, is it not?
I assume only when his heart stops beating. I think that a balls joke, that can go all the way to 120.
This guy gets
Easy.
it. David gets it.
I don't mind it. It's fun.
You do mind it when I do it, when we're in it.
But afterward, I'm laughing out loud at the whole absurdity of it.
Like you would with a 3-year-old that misbehaves.
Right. I don't think I've ever failed to catch it, though, and sent that to my wife.
That's the gold standard, right?
That would be.
That's as a practical joke. The best thing is that he didn't hear it. His timing was off, and at exactly that moment, he sends it, and he embarrasses himself sending a text to Pat Riley.
It's like asking whether or not a fart joke will ever be not funny.
Is it?
I think the answer is no. It's always funny.
He's always funny.
Before you were on with us, I think you would have found blasphemous and hurtful some of the things that Mike Ryan was saying about his appraisal of LoanDepot Park as a baseball park. And I'd just like for him to say them to your face because
I have before, and he takes it deeply personal because he designed every aspect of that, and I understand, and I'm not conflating what they ended up doing with the franchise afterwards. It just never was for me. I know Jeffrey Loria fancied himself this big art expert, and he was going for something that just wasn't for me. Art is subjective. My whole thing is pick a color. You know, it was every color at the start. I found it a garish design. I don't like the food options. I don't like being there. It's just not for me. I know that is not what David intended. This was supposed to be a communal thing. I guess I'm on the line of like more traditional, and they were really going for something that was really different. And I guess it works for some people. It just never worked for me. It bothers me all the time. It bothers my ears. It bothers my nose. It bothers my eyes.
I think the stadium.
You feel better?
I mean, I'm sorry to do that to you again, but
no, I'm just asking. Like, I'm hoping. I want you, in light of the irresponsible journalism that happened and befell the show about mental illness, I'm just asking. Do you feel better telling me that you don't understand signage or you don't understand the concept of sales or quadrants? I'm just curious if you don't like Miro. Do you feel better?
No, not really. Like I like Camden Yards, dude. I like Comerica. I like other ballparks. I don't like this one.
Did you see, David, where it was ranked? That's what we're talking about. There was a ranking of the MLB.
I saw it.
There
was in the third column.
63 of 90.
Greg Cody had an opinion here, though, that he wasn't allowed to express.
I mean, I think it's a great little ballpark. I think this. I
condescending.
I think the capacity is just the right size for this franchise right now. I think. The retractable roof was necessary and smart. I think the look over the outfield wall to the downtown skyline is gorgeous. I think there's a lot good about it, and I'm not going to retrofit that because I object right now to the way the club is being run by the cheapest owner in all of sports, Bruce Sherman. I could go on and on about that, but I think the ballpark itself is perfectly fine. I like the location as well.
Yeah, I love the location. Look, I think I've been to most of the MLB ballparks, and this one's just not for me. If you like it, I'm not going to hold it against you. I just fancy, 20 other ballparks more than this one, and I guess I'm more of a traditionalist when it comes to ballparks. I've never had a good time in that place.
David?
Well, that's not true. That's not true at all. You have had a good time because you've gone to a game with your daughter. And you said that you had a very good time and made a memory with her.
Yeah.
So I'd like you to take that back.
We left after 3 innings.
So you had a great hour.
I was there with friends. Like there's just nothing I don't like the suites. I don't like the lower level. I don't have good times there. I didn't even like the Guns N' Roses concert that I went to.
I thought the food was good. I thought the food has it gone down in the last 2.5 years?
Yes. I've never liked the food.
First year, when it first opened, they had like the Cuban little corner out there. Like that's gone now.
Taste of Miami.
Yeah.
That's just
13 years ago.
It's just not for me. I'm sorry.
Okay. So it's not a new ballpark anymore. Let me start with that. This is now entering season number 14. But what I also will say, Mike, about Comerica and about some of the traditional ballparks, when it was being negotiated with the city of Miami and the county of Miami-Dade, nobody wanted a traditional park because they felt that would not reflect Miami and the newness and the new money and the Latin aspect of Miami. No one wanted a Camden Yards. It actually was part of the deal that the project would not be an old style retrofitted ballpark. So it was never even a possibility.
I get that. It does also age buildings prematurely when you go for a more contemporary look and, 20 years go by and then all of a sudden you wonder what someone was thinking there. But
in Vegas, Mike, they're building the same looking thing. They're building the Sydney Opera House again in Vegas. And it's closer to Marlins Park than it is to Comerica.
This is not that complicated of a disagreement. I understand why you like it, and I understand why this coming from me.
But you called it a bleep hole. You did call
I called
LoanDepot Park.
Yeah. No, I called it a hole. Yeah, I called it a hole. Yeah, I don't like it. It's bad. It's bad. Not good.
Let's get into what Greg Cody was saying here before we get into the topics of the day. Greg was saying that Bruce Sherman is the cheapest owner in all of sports. Does he have that right?
Oh, I think that that's an argument that people in Pittsburgh would say that Bob Nutting is. I think that people in Chicago would say that Jerry Reinsdorf is. And I think I could probably keep going and go city by city. You have total location bias in that. And the fact of the matter is the Marlins, at the payrolls they've had, they should have been able to win because there's teams in the playoffs every year. Even the Marlins themselves were in the playoffs only a few years ago. And so far be it for me to defend Bruce Sherman, except to tell you that I think it's the results that you're playing, not the payroll.
Well, it's the lack of a plan. They're building toward a future that never gets here. They're fielding a minor league lineup this season. A month from now, they probably will trade their only star, Sandy Alcantara, once he proves he's healthy with 4 or 5 starts. And their minor league system, I saw the pipeline ranking, they're only mid-pack right now. It's not as if they have a top 3 minor league system where the immediate future is guaranteed. He is spending egregiously low. They lose 100 games last year, and the payroll falls by $36 million. If I were MLB or the Players Association, I wouldn't stand for the inexcusably low spending that Bruce
But
Sherman
they have a
is doing.
floor, don't they? Like when all of this is bargained, right, David? Like what he's saying there, you wouldn't stand for it. They do stand for it. It was negotiated.
Well, there's no actual salary floor. I think what you're referring to, Dan, is that the union has an opportunity to file a grievance. And there was a grievance filed against us and many other teams over the years when the union thinks the payroll's too low. It should be very telling to you if no grievance is filed against the Marlins this year. It means that the union looked at the books, which they do every year. They get our financial statements, and they see exactly the revenue, and they see the losses, and therefore they see that there is no grievance to be won. Sometimes they just file it for PR, but other years they know there's nothing they can do. The Marlins are putting out a payroll that is really related to the revenue that they have, which is bleak.
Do you take some sort of weird, devilish satisfaction being in the middle of the idea that you helped ruin the business down here because they can't afford anything because they spent too much buying the team from you?
No, I take pleasure in knowing that that is the laziest take of all time from someone of your stature, that you would say that an ownership group, because they paid too much, it's like saying you bought a house for too much, so therefore you don't mow the lawn. It's completely ridiculous. Or you let the pool turn into moss because you paid too much for the house. Did they overpay for the Marlins? You bet your sweet bippy they did. But that has nothing to do with the ongoing
By how much? By $300 million? By $400 million? How much did they overpay? By something that would make for a nice payroll if they were spending it there?
They overpaid by probably $400 to $600 million, given where the other bids were.
David's right, though, but they bought it. So it's yours.
It's not my problem.
Do something with it.
I don't take satisfaction. It's if you overpay for a house or a car or a piece of memorabilia, or you overpay in whatever it is you're doing that means you can't allocate toward other things, that really has nothing to do with the seller at all.
Famously, Dan, you went at Major League Baseball for not doing their due diligence and making sure that this was not something that the ownership group overextended itself. And part of the business plan was that they were going to cut because they did overextend themselves. I don't want to pick at old wounds anymore. I want to talk to you as like a former team president, though. There was I guess he's okay now, so we can kind of laugh at it, but Tracy Morgan vomited courtside at Madison Square Garden, which will probably be a meme forevermore, as well as his photo of him recuperating. But how, from a team ops perspective, Tracy Morgan throwing up courtside is probably treated differently than a regular Joe Schmo, such that they are sitting courtside, would be treated. How do you think those conversations go? How would they have gone if something similar were to happen in your line of work?
Oh, we actually rehearse that, Mike. We rehearse if something happens that interrupts the field of play. You rehearse it with your cleaning crew, with your security, what you would do if there has to be a stoppage, because normally it's going to be a spilling of beer or a throwing of popcorn or something that would get on the field. But of course, you plan for the occasional vomit. And the way you do it is you are sprung into action. You've got people who are assigned the mop, people who are assigned the pail. You've got people who are assigned the spray. You've got people who understand what to do about giving free stuff to the people next to where the vomit happened or where the spill happened in order to make sure that your customers are happy. So you go right to page 68 of the playbook, and that is what the Knicks did, and you keep on going. So it doesn't matter whether it's Tracy Morgan or a person to be named later or nameless later. They very well knew what to do. And it's gross, but it's the least gross thing. At the end of the games, I would get a report, and it wasn't labeled this, but I would label it, like the top 10 grossest things from the game, like what happened in the bathroom at section 104. And you get a report of, hey, there was a stuffed toilet, or there was a spill, or there was people who were overserved, and vomiting barely makes your top 10.
Okay. I had a follow-up, but now I have like 10 more follow-ups. I guess I first want to start with, when you rehearsed it, did you have like an actor with fake vomit that would fake vomit everywhere, and then you do like a whole cleanup thing?
Yeah, but you don't do it with vomit. You do it with, you just spill stuff. You spill a liquid. We didn't put chunks in it. We didn't do anything like that to make it vomit. We would just do it with water. We wouldn't even do it with sticky stuff like beer, even though beer is the most common thing that's spilled in your ballpark is beer. But no, you don't practice with actual beer.
But then how is your staff ready if it doesn't smell bad or if it's not like a biohazard? I feel like you're going to take different steps there to clean it up than if you just have fake water. Like, I don't think you're doing your staff a service by having, just water.
Yeah, but I don't start a fire every time I do a fire drill.
Well, maybe if you did, you'd be better prepared for a fire.
Wow.
Okay. I don't even know how to respond to that. I do
Billy's
not believe that
today.
it is appropriate to start a fire in order to practice what to do. Active shooter drills we do all the time. We don't have an active shooter who is actually shooting at people, but we are prepared with what to do when that happens.
That was unnecessary. It's just unnecessary.
It actually seems pretty necessary given the times. But I'm wondering if you've ever had a similar situation with a VIP. Doesn't necessarily have to be, someone throwing up, but have you ever had an issue, health-related or some other type of issue around a VIP that was in one of your ballparks?
I don't recall anybody even being overserved. Obviously, we have a lot of celebrities who came to games over the years, and I don't recall ever having to kick anyone out or having a crossword with them. I certainly recall throwing people out. Every game, there's people who go to the medical center, and you get a full report of everybody who goes for liability purposes. Most of the time, they're overserved or they've been hit by a foul ball, and you got to keep track of that. But I was never told over 18 years that, hey, there's a celebrity here. And if they're going to be overserved, it would be in the suite where I was. And so we would be in control of that.
David, I have a specific question to ask you, but first I have to hark back to something you said and make a point of clarification. When you use the phrase bet your bippy, what is the etymology on that?
It is just me trying to appeal to you and the demographic that you bring when you're on the show. And I believe the expression is bet your sweet bippy.
Yes.
Because
you need to stop doing all of that.
Why did you say yes?
Yeah.
No, because he's right.
Yeah, but we
Sweet
need
bippy.
Okay, but
and it reminds me, it's from Laugh-In.
All right.
So, Greg,
all right, let's
Dan,
please,
just give me 10 seconds. Just pretend you're not there and that Greg is running the show. Greg, I have been saying bet your bippy on nothing personal, and I had someone reach out to me at davidsamsonpodcast.com who was in college, who loved laughing and said, you're doing it wrong. It's bet your sweet bippy, and I've never said it incorrectly.
Laughing for the uninitiated is a 1960s comedy television show.
Right.
1970s maybe? 1970s.
Groundbreaking.
1970s. Please stop doing that.
Rowan and Martin.
Do you ever talk about Seinfeld?
Please,
or Cheers?
Tony?
Those are just as old.
Okay, educate yourselves. No.
Yes.
No, Laughing is 20 years earlier than those. Laughing is like one of the original television comedies.
Yeah, Ruth Buzzy.
But as you get further away from when their start date was, you start to conflate it. And if I told you right now to guess what year the Civil War started, I would hope that you'd say, hey, sounds like 1865. But if you said 1845, I'd say, wrong but close.
All right, it started in 1968. I'm asking you to eradicate it from your lexicon or update your lexicon. Let's do top 5, Chris Cody. Get the fanfare ready. Top 5 grossest things David Samson has gotten in one of those end game reports. Number 5, David.
Number 5 is a adult who had an accident outside of the bathroom. It's a nightmare.
Number 4.
Number 4 is someone who thought it would be wise to take their beer cup and fill it with ice cream and then drop it on somebody in a fight.
A good move.
It's a terrible move. It's disgusting, and it caused us to actually have to no. Number 3, the number 3 grossest thing that ever came to my desk after a game was when the Bat Boys with an opposing team, and I don't want to make up the team because I can't remember, they had a tobacco combination that I hadn't seen before that they couldn't get off the dugout floor, and it caused extra time, which was extra money to get the dugout ready. If you've never seen a dugout after a game, you don't know what I'm talking about, but it is heinous.
It's sticky. It's sticky brown, disgusting.
Sticky brown and disgusting, which could describe my number 2. Number 2, and this is just me with children, I did not want to put any children's bathrooms or changing areas. And the second grossest thing, which to me is very patently offensive, is when somebody, and it's happened more than once, left dirty diapers not in a refuse place. They left it out in the open. That is unacceptable. Period.
All right. So sticky brown. And when you said number 2 there, were you saying your number 2 or were you saying your number 2 in the rankings when you
That was my number 2 in the rankings.
Okay. Number 1.
The grossest thing that ever happened to me is when someone got hit with a foul ball and it opened a gash in their head. And it was their fault because they were on their phone. And it was a quick settlement. But when you go visit them and they're going into the ambulance, it is really gross because the head really does bleed tremendously. And a foul ball can really open up the noggin. And I found that to be gross. Even though I'm a fan of medical shows like Grey's Anatomy, that did not make me happy.
I feel like throw up's worse than a lot of the
barf
things
is
you
worse
said.
than that. Yeah.
It was their fault was unnecessary there.
Foul ball.
And a quick settlement. What, you just walk up and write a check for $4,000 and be like, sorry, and then that person left with blood all over the check?
It's funny. You don't start with $4,000. You start with a signed ball and a jersey, and you work your way up if you absolutely have to.
Well, what was the settlement? Please, I need to hear more. Like, why did you offer up it was their fault they were in the phone?
Oh, because that's the first thing we do. We go to the videotape and we see whether or not someone who gets hit in the noggin was on their phone. Because if not, then we settle for more. If they're on their phone, we settle for less. If we see that someone's paying attention to the game and they get hit in the head, we're going in, forget the ball. We're going to start with a meet and greet. We may even start with the first pitch.
Now, wait a minute. Isn't there a disclaimer on the in fine print on the back of a ticket that says, if you get hit by a foul ball, it ain't our fault?
Yeah, and that is the truth. That's the legal
should
truth.
Say it just like that.
But people file lawsuits because you get 1-800 lawyers who are willing to do it on commission, 33%, and so they will just waste our time and our money. So we call it a nuisance payment.
Okay, so you never contested one of that such claim.
We went pretty far with several of them because they were being so unreasonable. But we never actually went to trial. So every one of them ends up as a settlement, but it's just a matter of when you settle.
And what's a typical settlement? $5K? Less than that?
It depends. 5K is a good number. If you get yourself 5K from a little knock, we didn't really like paying people who said, oh, my back hurts, my shoulder hurts. I want to see blood for 5K. I want to see bruising. I want to see seams in your arm for 5K.
Yeah,
don't tell me you have a headache. I'm not interested in that.
But I'm just like a screaming line drive foul ball. If you go back and look and they're on their phone, that you're like, up, we're clear. Like that. Well, some foul balls are like, I get you on the lofty foul ball, but a screamer down the baseline, you're like, up, they're on their phone, we're good.
That's a utility infielder signed jersey.
Okay, I want to play this game. Let's play this game. Come up. I want you guys to give me some scenarios here and then just have him say, here's a Mike Lowell bobblehead. That's what you get. I'm going to open the bidding because what's happening here is so wrong. Like he's saying somebody did something and made a negotiation point that was unreasonable. My thinking is that person is probably more reasonable than David getting there trying to immediately negotiate with a bobblehead while that person hemorrhages from the head hit with a screaming line drive and wasn't prepared for a negotiation that arrived with settlement and life.
Concussed too?
A person who is to be taken advantage of, bleeding from the face, and David's there with $5,000. What are you saying is unreasonable in that circumstance?
Listen, some people like a Mezziga. I don't really understand your position here that you're saying that I'm being unreasonable. Some people are more than happy to take away signed items from a game.
What if before the Nets went up, during your time at Pro Player, a bat went into the stands? Even if they're not on their phone, that's harder to get away from. How does that negotiation go down?
You get to keep it.
I love where your head is because bats are a different story than balls. And the way you work with bats is you don't get to keep the bat that hits you because often the player wants it back. So we promise the players that we will go for a trade. And that's a twofer. You get 2 unused actual bats for every gamer that hits you when you're in the stands. Wow. So that's the general rule. Now, if the bat splinters and it's wedged in your arm, then you keep the broken bat because the player doesn't want it. On top of that, you're invited back, and you may even get to meet the player depending on how wedged in the wood is.
That's
if the bat, I'm picturing the bat like through someone's arm.
That's a good deal for an impaling.
That's the rate of impalement.
I can't help, but betray one of our colleagues here, and I regret that I'm doing this, but I can't unsee it right now because Tony's been shaking his head the entirety of this segment, like genuinely seemingly appalled at how clinically cutthroat you are about not being human. But I read his lips a second ago, and I don't know who he's talking to, but he said, I saw it, evil. The word evil, like who are you talking to back there, Tony? Because the entire time that would have been good on air, but I saw it off air.
It was said into my microphone to somebody who works in the back room, who's Lewis, and he was talking about how, wow, I can't believe it, all this time that we were going to these games high above the press box, David Samson looking down at somebody getting hit in the face with the ball and being like,
I want you to imagine 9,000 fans are there and somebody comes out with a piece of bat in their arm, impaled, bleeding, scared.
We'll give you 2 other bats. How about that?
14-year-old kid, and he's like, hey, you want a Miguel Rojas ball, kid?
Yes, a John Birdie autograph.
David, laugh as you want, but kids actually get premiums. that is where
he
is
does
where
have
I'm
a heart,
reasonable. Dan. Listen, I'm not heartless at all. If you're an impaled kid, that is worth more than an impaled adult.
David, what if my mom slips in the bathroom and really like hurts her back?
What kind of shoes is she wearing? Heels to a game?
Yeah, high heels.
Yeah,
no, just normal shoes. Normal shoes, sneakers.
Normal shoes is worth something. If you're wearing rubber sole shoes and you trip because we have a wet spot, so that's something the cleaning crew knows
with
during
no
the game.
sign, no sign up that says wet floor.
So we've got these yellow V-shaped things that you put in the bathroom when there's the wet spot, and that absolves you. That's how you get to the utility. If we don't get to, you could be looking at a lower ball for that. If you slip and fall in a wet bathroom or on a concourse where there's been something that's spilled, you're getting starting 9.
Wow. So if I slip and fall on a soiled diaper that hasn't been picked up, I get to bat fourth in the next game.
There we
go. Something like that.
It's about the worst case scenario for me as someone who would trip on that sort of item.
Yeah.
I never had that happen, so I never had to make that negotiation. So I don't know where it would end, but you would clearly have the upper hand were you to take advantage.
Hypothetical for you. There's a fight in the fish tank in the outfield at Pro Player Stadium. Your security is late to get there. There's pushing and shoving. One of the people involved in the fight gets shoved onto a patron that is sitting behind them, not involved at all in the fight. They get hurt in it. What is your liability there and ensuing settlement?
Well, you said pro player, so I'm in the clear because I'm a tenant at pro player. I didn't control the security at pro player. And so while it would make me angry that security would be late to a fight like that, that would be a Dolphins Wayne Huizinga / Stephen Ross issue.
Okay,
at LoanDepot. Yeah. If that would happen, we would have a problem because it is not the expectation that there would be a third party who would get hurt in a fight. So that person would have two causes of action, one against the people who were fighting. And the odds are, depending on where the seat location is, and I'm being general, but it generally works, is that you're not going to get much blood from a stone in that regard, which is how the team then ends up getting sued. We would then countersue the two people fighting, and we would figure out how to get the insurance companies to settle if that third party actually did get hurt.
So you think Bob Nutting is cheaper than this?
Wait, I'm sorry. You're calling me cheap because of payroll or because of how items are settled in a legal situation?
Just general unwillingness to give things away.
Oh, I think that the people who work for me and the fans in general would say that that is not my reputation at all, actually. My reputation is that when people are deserving, they get paid. And when people are deserving, they get items. When there is something that I made a mistake on or my staff did who reports to me, of course, I'm responsible for that, and I would never shy away from responsibilities. What I will not handle or stand or pay for is people trying to get one over on me, trying to get something for something they don't deserve.
Dave, what if I'm in the outfield? Home run's coming my way. I'm tracking it, right? I'm tracking in the bleachers. All of a sudden, I lean over the side, and then I fall and I tumble into like the Clevelander all of a sudden, right?
Or onto the field.
Or onto the field or something. I fall 10 feet, 20 feet. What happens?
Ejected. Immediate ejecting. If you're hurt, we'll take you to the ambulance to the hospital. But if you in any way get onto the field of play, going for a foul ball or not, you are immediately ejected. There are signs up that is very clear on your ticket and signs in the ballpark that you may not interrupt or go onto the field of play.
What if I'm in the Clevelander? Like I fall in, but I fall into that little back area. Lucky me.
I would say that anyone who by mistake gets into the Clevelander, architecturally, that is impossible. The only people who could get into the Clevelander would be your left fielder. In that manner, it would be very difficult the way the ballpark is built to fall into the Clevelander. I've never seen that, and I don't believe it's physically even possible.
You can prove how little Tony's been to that ballpark.
So
by
25K?
that he painted.
Baseball began yesterday. Billy Gill complains and says it's fake baseball. We have not talked about that at all. Is there anything worth talking about? The Dodgers win both games. The Dodgers unlikely to lose all season.
Well, I would say that if you have an over-under from DraftKings or anywhere where the win total is 162, I would encourage you to put all of your hard-earned money on the under. The Dodgers will lose a game. Their over-under, I believe, is around 104.5, which is one of the top over-unders you'll see. And what you saw in these two games is that even without Freddie Freeman and Mookie Betts, they have the ability to score runs. Their starting rotation is deep when healthy, and their bullpen is deep, especially with old Marlin Tanner Scott, who they didn't even use for the save this morning. They went with Alex Vesia, and they've just got options upon options. If they're healthy, they're going to win 110 games, and they've got a chance to go for the Mariners' record of 116. The Cubs are despondent. They flew all the way to Tokyo. No Freeman, no Betts, and they still could not go away with a split. That's a crappy flight home today.
David, just before we get to your review from the week, I feel like I can say this without being prisoner of the moment and even understanding. Mookie Betts and Freeman might get hurt. You never know who's going to get injured. This is the best roster ever assembled, correct? This is the best team. When you put an over-under at 104.5, that people are going to just assume you're going to win 100 games, there's never been anything like this, correct?
I think there have been, Dan. I mean, that Mariners team, I think, was assembled and was potentially a better team than what these Dodgers are. We saw what the Dodgers did last year when their rotation was completely injured. They still were able to beat the Yankees.
I'm not talking about injury. I'm talking about when you can go through 10 pitchers like that. When your bullpen arms are going to get you from 5 through 9 because you're stronger there than everyone too.
It's deep. There's no question. And of course, I'm jealous of it. You know, thinking back to trying to compete against that. You're saying to me, is it the best roster ever assembled? I'm not willing to make that.
You can make the argument, is my point.
Yes, you can definitely make the argument. I mean, and you ought to make the argument when your payroll is almost $400 million. And you've got Ohtani in at 46, which is where Ohtani is slated in that payroll because of how the math is done. You've got to be able to win games. It really makes Mets fans despondent when they think about the amount of money the Mets spend on players and they don't get the results the Dodgers are getting. You have to expect the winning that the Dodgers are doing.
David, I want to ask you about monologues on the big screen and on the small screen as well, because I was watching White Lotus and there was a great monologue. Even though Goggins got in a couple of times, this was a monologue. And I'm curious, what are some of your favorite monologues you've ever seen on television or in movies? Jaws had a great one. A Few Good Men had a great one. I'm curious your thoughts.
Malice had a great one.
Yeah, I Am God. I guess
one of my favorites.
It's probably not even the best Alec Baldwin monologue, though.
He's got two.
So it's interesting. You're talking about the White Lotus, and you're talking about Sam Rockwell, who his real life partner.
Spoiler alert!
What? Why is that a spoiler?
I actually don't think this is a bad spoiler, and I'll tell you why. I was checked out on White Lotus. I had no interest in it. Everyone said that it wasn't off to the greatest start, and then I saw a still on social media of Sam Rockwell in this scene with Walton Goggins. I'm like, I'm in, and I hopped on that moving train. So I think in this instance, a couple days removed, mentioning that Sam Rockwell has joined the cast of White Lotus is a good thing.
It's a reveal, David, though. Like it wasn't announced before the show.
It's not like it's Brad Pitt. I know he's won an Academy Award, but I think Sam Rockwell can occasionally go to the grocery store and not get bothered, is what I'm saying.
I think that you may see Tracy Letts at some point. When you ask people to go to Thailand for 7 months, they're going to say, hi, I'm Leslie Bibb. I'll say yes, but I'd like to bring my partner. And Mike White says, your partner is Sam Rockwell? Bring him. We'll use him. And then Sam Rockwell appears. I don't think anyone who's paying attention was surprised to see Sam Rockwell on the screen. I think you said, oh, that makes total sense. Why sit in his room all day while his partner is filming?
Oh,
and he ends up getting such a great starter.
That scene was just written for him, though, meant to be more and more absurd. Like they coaxed him into doing that based on just writing what Mike is describing as. Mike just compared that monologue, ridiculous, to the greats of all time in the history of cinema.
It's Pitch Perfect. It's fantastic.
That is a good movie.
It's one of the greatest, not Pitch Perfect, the movie. It's delivered by one of the better actors. I think, generationally speaking, Sam Rockwell is one of the more talented actors of his time, no?
It reminded me of the Christopher Walken monologue in Pulp Fiction in terms of subject matter. And now maybe that is considered spoiling, but the reason why it's getting so much attention is that A, it's Sam Rockwell, one of the best actors alive, and B, it's done in a way that every time the scene continues, and it almost looks like one take, you're looking and saying, there's no way he's going to, oh my God, he just went there. Well, that's it. He won't go further. And then it's further and further. And then when you're done with the scene, you're saying to yourself, this is brilliant, because you don't even know what it has to do with the show.
Nothing.
It may have just
nothing.
been
Nothing.
Well, no, they established he's got a role play.
Okay.
And we now know that he's pretty good at it.
Regardless, I'm going to let you go now, David, because you wanted some time on your review, and we do not have that time. So I want to make sure that we get that time next time. So just save that review. I want to make fun of Greg Cody for a couple of minutes. Thank you for being on with us. We appreciate it.
Take care.
I'm sorry about my opinions on LoanDepot. For what it's worth, I also don't like Kaseya.
I don't feel better.
Nothing Personal is the name of the podcast. And I just want to address something here that happened during that segment where I had a private conversation with Chris Cody as everything was happening, because I'm just fascinated still after all these years by his father. Greg knows it's not funny. Like, he knows before he says that it's not funny to say, and what would this penalty be? Would I get to bat cleanup during a game? Like, he knows aggressively that that's not funny. His comedic judgment my entire lifetime has been better than that, but he cannot help himself. And so he has to get out there with what he knows to be just a joke that we're all just gonna stare at him and be like, all right, Greg, like, you know better than that.
No.
You know that joke's not any good.
It's visual humor. When I say that, you have to picture me at my age in a ridiculous batting helmet,
baseball uniform,
dressed like this.
Oh, I have full baseball
Do
uniform.
You?
Yeah,
Yeah, full
funny.
uniform. Yeah,
Yeah,
stirrups.
I won number 9, which was my first number in Little League because it was my mother's favorite number.
Fun fact.
But it's the visual. It's the visual. Me batting against a 98-mile-an-hour fastball is funny.
Look, but look, Chris, this is the reason that I bring it up with you, okay? I believe it is totally 100% fair criticism from our audience that both you and I are too hard on your father. It's absolutely fair. But he knew before he said it. That joke was...
I don't want to leave you alone on this, Dan, but I'm kind of with my dad on this one. That is funny. Him in a uniform and a helmet.
There you go.
Like when you do the swing, you do the sound too. What would your swing sound like? Yeah. Yeah.
I got bat speed.
No, you don't.
I tell you that. I may not
come
make
on.
contact, but I got bat speed.
There's just no way. Let's see.
Bat speed.
Let's get a bat. I want to see.
We have a bat here, actually.
I want to
I've
see.
been in the cage.
Here, we've got a bat.
Fine.
Here, you close this segment. You get in a stance. Camera people, get ready. Here we go. All visual. This is all going to be visual to get. And I don't feel safe in here. I'm going to leave.
It's a normal size bat.
Can
MLB bat there.
He's alleging that he has bat speed. We're going to get you near a microphone.
Not next to the screen, though. Please, not next to the giant screen.
Yeah, let's not do this. He can't hear me, Dan. Tell him to stop.
I don't feel safe with any of this. I don't feel safe.
Dad,
watch with the backswing, Greg,
Watch the
please.
backswing.
watch the
Please,
camera.
God.
The
Backswing.
camera
There's
behind
a-
you. The camera behind
We
you.
don't have the space for this.
Whoa.
I don't think he has bat speed. I don't think so.
This is my bat speed, but slow.
Please don't hit the camera.
Please don't hit the
Hide.
screen.
Please be careful.
It's not a terrible swing.
It's not good.
Ball drive to center field.
Okay.
Track it, Tony.
I'm going. Oh, the Clevelander!
Watch the hand gesture.
That's a nice
bunt.
ball. You're going to hurt your finger that way, though. You're going to hurt your fingers.
Pull it up a little bit, too. A little low.
I regret everything I did here.
He does warm up his bat like a 1920s baseball player.
This episode of the Dan Le Batard Show with Stugotz is presented by DraftKings. DraftKings, the crown is yours.
Last night, basketball got off to a fun start. Greg Cody inexplicably swaggered in here today on behalf of North Carolina, that poor downtrodden sad sack franchise that needs the defense because it is such a great underdog. Greg Cody stormed in here today and said, even though he didn't know who San Diego State was, North Carolina vindicated after West Virginia's governor came after them.
Right. They were maligned. They're not that bad. They're better than West Virginia. And everybody was acting like West Virginia was wronged. Oh, my God.
That wasn't the game last night. That wasn't the game to be talking about last night.
Okay, it wasn't because the Alabama State game, the St. Francis Alabama State game, was more exciting. However, I do want to just linger on this for a second because it's the fastest that any one of our takes has ever aged well. Like, yesterday we're like, oh my God, Governor of West Virginia, get over yourself. Like, we're splitting hairs, blah, blah, blah. This is why North Carolina should be in. This is why they are in, blah, blah, blah. Like 5 hours later, North Carolina just blows out San Diego State. All of the takes that we had yesterday aged very well. And I would like to pat ourselves on the back for it.
That never happens.
If North Carolina lost, Jim, it might be a little tricky today. It might be a little tricky. We might be walking some things back. But they left no doubt. They won. We can all move on now.
Worthy.
Hopefully.
Chris, do you have a stat of the day related to this?
Start of the day, start of the day. It is your start of the day. Start of the day, start of the day.
So
It
you
is your
did.
start
You
of
had
the
one
day.
immediately ready. I was
Start of
surprised
the
by that.
day, start of the day. It is your start of the day. Start of
Stunning
the day,
how good you've
start
gotten
of
at
the
this
day.
job that
It
quickly.
is your start of the day.
Give him
Stat of the day is presented by Miller Lite. You will never believe who sent me this stat. Against San Diego State last night. By the way, San Diego State, the team that led the nation in field goal percentage defense. North Carolina became the first team in NCAA history to score 95 or more points, to shoot 50% or better from the field, to shoot 50% or better from three, to shoot 85% or better from the line, all in one game. North Carolina did this last night.
Also, West Virginia, was complaining so much about this. They didn't even realize their head coach was leaving for another school. Darian DeVries got hired by Indiana yesterday. So really rough exactly why I said if you're a player on this team, you're like, all right, pump the brakes, hang on a second. Because now there's more important things going on, and everyone's been distracted by this stupid tournament
I think the governor of West Virginia needs to sign an executive order to prevent that coach from leaving his university. It's an outrage. It's a crime.
Was it this guy that gave you that sound?
Yeah, that was him.
Thank you, Taylor.
Back to the Alabama State game. So, Dan, I don't know if you caught this, but the game ended on a Hail Mary pass. It was so cool. Alabama State, the player, I think his name's Micah Simpson, he was a middle school quarterback, launches the ball across the court, gets deflected off of a couple Alabama State players. One of them gets it, puts in the layup. They win the game. It was absolutely electric. It was such a fun, final 4 minutes of that game. And, again, March Madness delivers.
Are you guys ready for what we're about to gorge on this weekend and in coming weekends? Because this has even gotten Tony's attention. Like Tony can sit out. Tony can be a little too cool for school on some of our conversations. Like he's not interested in some of the hockey stuff. Pretends, but is faking it poorly. But college basketball, March Madness, has grabbed him by the throat, and it starts. Basically, the thing about this that's so great is just, hey, look, sports. Everywhere, morning, afternoon, and night, and there'll be a lot of bad games in there. And God Almighty, everyone's going to shoot 36%. You've been spoiled by the pros. Trust me when I tell you, some of this is going to be very hard to watch.
The funny thing is about March Madness, the individual games of college basketball, most of the time kind of suck.
Give me the last 5 minutes.
But when you put them all together, 64 of them happening within a 2-day window, all of a sudden it becomes magical. Alabama State, who nobody could even tell me what their mascot is, all of a sudden...
Hornets.
Okay, outside of somebody who watched the game. They throw a pass, gets bobbled 8 times, all of a sudden the layup goes up, everybody's an Alabama State fan. Nothing is better, nothing produces more amazing moments with such bad basketball than March Madness. It's incredible. I love it.
It is. It just really is just your
white guys.
You're opening up.
Wow, you really didn't watch the Alabama State game.
No. But historically,
you're gonna say opposite. You're gonna say opposite white guys.
You know, white guys bring the magic.
Thank you. Backdoor cut, Princeton.
That's a secret sauce to March Madness. It's the white guys with the ill-fitting uniforms against the teams with the good
elbow
uniforms.
jumper
And
brick.
Not as many white guys. Finally, someone had the balls to say it. It's the white guys.
The best zone defense you've ever seen.
2-3.
So well coached.
Backdoor cuts. Put it on the poll.
Shooter!
They're all shooters, but they never make it.
Put it on the poll at Le Batard Show. Is the secret sauce to March Madness white guys?
It's a loose ball. Get it.
Admit it. Deep down in your heart, you know. All the great moments. All of them. All of them. All the memorable upsets.
That's not true.
All the great shots. Somewhere there.
No.
Somewhere framing the moment.
Not true.
Is a white guy.
Now, there can be an accent. You're not. This is not an absolute. The whole thing.
You're fixated on Mello? I'm at McNamara.
I will say one of my favorite things about March Madness is there's always a main character every year. There's always the one guy who gets, like, last year it was I can't remember his name because
the dude from NC State.
No, not him.
That guy was a main character.
He was a main character for sure, and that was a great run. But no, I think he played for Grand Canyon. I honestly can't even remember. But he ended up getting a Wingstop deal, and he was the main character for 2 weeks, and it was wonderful.
Jack Golke.
As soon as this
he was incredible. The guy
didn't miss.
As soon as the tournament ends, you're like, I can't remember his name.
That guy got
2 weeks.
He didn't miss for 2 weeks. It was incredible.
Sports.
Yeah, I'm not as into March Madness anymore. It's become apparent to me, once I had a team that was actually good, making runs on both ends, on the men's and women's. And I could say this to the pros, too. I generally don't – I'm not a basketball fan, I found out. I'm just a Heat Hurricanes fan. And without rooting interest there, and I haven't even filled out a bracket. No, we have NASCAR in town. We have the Miami Open in town. There's plenty of niche sports that I follow more closely that are going on. In 20 minutes, there's going to be tennis from Hard Rock Stadium that I'm going to be dialed into. So I think my interests have just changed. But I'm in on the white guys.
Okay, but for the casuals...
Thanks for letting us know that you don't watch March Madness.
Love the white guys. It's a really hard sport to follow, and I follow a lot of sports. And I think in following all these other sports... And with my teams not being good, it's just hard to follow college basketball. Not that you ever need to.
We got it. You are now all about racing. You're about tennis. You're out on basketball.
No, I'm in on race as well.
But on basketball, you seem professional and college. You're out. Got it. You're in the minority here because this is just a smorgasbord of avalanche of action is what it is. It's stakes. It's throwing into a washing machine and turning it on the maximum speed. Just here's sports. And there are going to be a lot of bad games, but they're playing odds on this. They're going to draw you in the last few minutes. And I don't remember that Gretzky guy's name either, but he was kind of bald. All he did was make jumpers and then signed an NIL deal. No, you know who I'm talking about.
The male pattern
They
baldness?
just said his name, and Dan
Golke.
and I still don't remember.
He had more of a Billy Donovan V.
Yeah.
It wasn't balding.
Like a Norman Osborn.
He had something. What he had, whether it's Sam Rockwell or someone else, what he had is hair that made me think he couldn't do that during March Madness.
I want to be very
he played
clear.
for Oakland. Yeah,
He's
that
got
was
the Billy
him.
Donovan, right?
Yeah, I want to be very clear. This is comic book Norman Osborn, not Willem Dafoe Norman Osborn, for the record.
There are some sports things that I wanted to get to today, and one of them is Minnesota's out on Aaron Rodgers. So that's the report, right? And it's a credible report?
We have credible reporters with different sides to this. So earlier this morning, there was a Tom Pelissero report that said the Vikings are moving forward with J.J. McCarthy. And for the moment, that's bad news for Aaron Rodgers. Seemingly, this delay is because he quite fancies the Vikings, and that's his top destination. However, in the moments that followed, Diana Rossini recently reported that it's not over yet for Aaron Rodgers in Minnesota. However, the Vikings are prepared to go into this spring and evaluate J.J. McCarthy, his health, how far he's come along before making a decision on Aaron Rodgers. They're essentially tabling the Aaron Rodgers discussion. So now the ball is back in Aaron Rodgers' court. Do you retire? Do you go to your plan B? Do you go to your plan C? Because as of right now, there doesn't seem to be a path in the immediate future for Aaron Rodgers in Minnesota. They want to see him in spring mini camps and then evaluate.
Great poker chip to play in business negotiations if you're the Vikings. Hey, wait it out. Maybe Justin Jefferson will be there for you. Psych, we don't want you. You're retired now. Giants don't want you either. What a move that would be at the end for the Vikings to do that to Aaron Rodgers and end his career, because if the Giants is my only choice, I'm retiring. If the Steelers are a legitimate choice, I'm going to try. But the Vikings is where I want to be.
It's humbling, though, because the place that you want to be the most is telling you, like, we're not quite there yet. Like, there has to be a certain scenario in which we'd be interested, but right now, in a vacuum, we're not. So you can go. You're free to go ahead and make another decision. Like the Vikings internally decided, like, we're gonna run the risk of Aaron Rodgers doing whatever it is that he wants. We're gonna move forward and see if this kid is healthy enough.
We are so close to the complete Brett Favre villain arc for Aaron Rodgers. We need a couple more things. We need him to play for the Vikings. We need him to get to the playoffs.
D-pick.
Obviously, that's a big missing one. We're still missing that one. And also scamming welfare state.
Dude, no, there's another one that we're missing. He needs to retire and then unretire.
Maybe this is it.
Yeah. This is
maybe
part
this
of
is
that
it.
story arc, and then Vikings.
Yeah, he needs to ruin a woman's career. Also, I was wondering, like, hey, what's up with Jack Golke? I, forgot his name and also that he existed. Maybe I can find out and see what he's up to.
Yeah.
There's a story catching up with Oakland's Jack Golke. Apparently, he plays for the Wisconsin Herd of the G League, getting a few minutes off the bench, averaging 3 points a game.
Attaboy.
Our guys.
Attaboy.
Still out
Still
there
getting
playing
that three off.
basketball. March.
There'll be another one.
There'll be
a
multiple
few.
of them.
They're gonna spring out all over the place. Also in football, Adam Schefter is reporting that it's done now. Cam Ward is the number one pick.
So his most recent podcast said all the momentum is going to Cam Ward. Cam Ward is essentially going to be the number one pick. Wow. It's just a matter of where he goes to. But Cam Ward's going to have his pro day here, but the consensus is among NFL front offices is Cam Ward is going to be the number one pick in the NFL draft. Congratulations for quarterback killer Mario Cristobal. I guess that's really cool to have a number one overall pick be a Miami Hurricane. That's been a long time. But, yeah, Cam's going to be number one. But the team has not yet been decided. And the Titans, who have leverage here, no doubt, if they wanted Cam Ward, this would be done and dusted. If you look at the betting odds, Cam Ward going number one is a heavy, heavy favorite. But Cam Ward to the Titans, not so much. So now there's an interesting game because Cleveland's in the number 2 spot. That's a dangerous game of chicken, and they badly need a quarterback. And Tennessee's not totally thrilled with the quarterback class.
And the Giants also are rumored to be toying with the idea of moving up to number 1 and drafting Cam Ward, which obviously would affect the whole Aaron Rodgers thing. That's why I said yesterday Aaron Rodgers is holding people hostage. He needs to make a decision because you'd rather have Cam Ward than Aaron Rodgers, right? Just like you'd rather have J.J. McCarthy, your number 1 draft pick, than a 40-some-year-old Aaron Rodgers.
Is there anything more tepid that he could have said in terms of flimsy sourcing than the phrase rumored to be toying with? Like in terms of rumored to be toying with. I don't know.
With the rumored to be toying with the idea.
That's right. Rumored to be toying with the idea. It's just, you could say that about almost anything.
Well, but it's a fact. I mean, there have been reports that the Giants want to trade up to number 1. Do I know that for a fact? No. So I'm quoting reports.
Okay.
How are you so bad at your own bit?
So please stop being mean to your father. Cam Ward is going number 1, according to Adam Schefter, no matter who wants a number 1 in a weak draft and a weak quarterback draft, when the thing that everyone in the sport wants now, right? The most valuable thing that you could possibly get in the draft is Jaden Daniels. Value immediately at quarterback. Value and production immediately at quarterback allows you, correct me if I have this wrong in the architecture of the game, it allows you to speed past everyone else if you can immediately somehow hit on the unicorn, but less of a unicorn than it used to be, of guy averages 10 yards a play in college, the way that Daniels did, and he immediately translates to the pros. That's what you're trying to get as the standard when you go all in on Cam Ward, correct? What you're trying to do is, oh, wow, look, one move. The Commanders passed the Cowboys after 20 years of not being able to pass them. Pass them like that.
Yeah, and you're also counting on Cam Ward to elevate others. You understand you don't have a Justin Jefferson in Tennessee or with the Giants, but you expect Cam Ward to be so good that he's going to make receivers a different level.
I mean, Greg, respectfully, Malik Neighbors is an incredible wide receiver.
Fair
and if
comment.
him and Cam Ward are paired together, like NFC East has a really good 1-2 down the board.
You can't forget you can't forget Neighbors there. Like Neighbors
Neighbors is incredible.
Well,
No,
but
he's good.
No, not good. I think we can now make the argument after one dreadful season with the Giants, could we not, that Neighbors enters the class of that's as good as there is in the entire sport. Not. You don't think that's right?
I wouldn't put him as good as a Justin Jefferson.
I'm talking about that's the only class he has not yet reached based on the production level with no quarterback play and not a lot of help after Saquon in New York. Like, I think no one disputes what I'm saying here, that Neighbors has entered the class of top 3 receivers in the league. Jamar Chase is in there too.
Right. Greg, if I give you the stats, 109, 109 receptions, 1,200 yards, and 7 touchdowns as a rookie, where do you put that as far as best rookie years ever?
With no offensive line.
Yeah,
or quarterback.
and with no quarterback. He's great, and I was remiss in not mentioning him, and I'm glad you did.
We really pounded you there. We really just we leapt on you.
But Chris, stop being mean to Greg. Chris.
We were unfair to you there. Well, but he was factually inaccurate.
No, I was. I forgot Malik Neighbors in making that comment.
The thing that I wanted to get to with you guys that we have not gotten to, because I know Lucy was obsessed with this as it related to Ben Affleck, perhaps at 50 years old, going back to previous loves again. But we are now dropping multiple power couples, and I did not know that there were 2 new power couples that have entered the room on discussion for pop culture purposes.
One in athletics, one in Hollywood. One super young, one longer in the tooth. Wow. Which one do you want to hear first?
I want longer in the tooth first.
Meryl Streep and Martin Short.
That's yesterday's news.
I know, but I wasn't.
But you've
here
been watching
yesterday.
Only Murders or not?
Yeah, I mean they were really hot and heavy in
blossoming
season
there.
4.
I think
3.
Everyone's
season
rooting
3.
for that.
Season 3.
Everyone's rooting for that to last. Also, you look at the general timelines, and like if it doesn't last, like where do they go from here?
Whoa!
I mean, you know where they go from here.
Whoa!
It's just I don't mean to be glib, but in athletics, there's another hot new couple, and this might be one of the best looking, most athletically fit couples ever. Ben Shelton from the ATP, and Trinity Rodman.
Oh, wow.
Superstar soccer player.
I like it.
I mean, they must have kids just for this country. They must. Patriotic. They must. It's their patriotic right to have children.
Olympic babies.
Olympic babies, world-class athlete babies. They come out with abs. No doubt. They come out with 8 abs.
Speaking of hot, how is this for a transition as a broadcasting professional? How about this guy right here, Christopher Bell? A great nickname, indisputably great nickname, right? The Iceman. He might be tired of telling the story of why and how he is the Iceman, but I'd like to talk to him because he's with Joe Gibbs Racing. He came into Las Vegas this past weekend. I don't know if this is a record hot streak or just a hot streak, but he's won 3 consecutive NASCAR Cup Series victories this season, and he's currently second in the Cup Series standings. He's looking to win the second time here, Homestead Miami Speedway this Sunday. It's a festival. Greg, you go almost every year. We've been there. This is the best thing Homestead does, is it not?
Yeah, obviously I preferred it when it was the season-ending race, the Super Bowl of NASCAR parochially. But, yeah, it's a major race. They only have, 30 of them or something?
But I'm not talking about major race. In Homestead, this and Hurricane Andrew are the things that Homestead is associated with.
Robert is here, too.
Well, one of those is better than the other. And you'll be happy to know that the reason why this is landing in March is because they're going to renovate Homestead. And the expectation is that the championship will once again be here. That's why they're putting it in March so they can be ready for the championship.
It's a giant event. Mike, please go get your gearhead. And thank you, Iceman, for joining us. Does anyone in the family refer to you as Iceman? Please take me through the history of Iceman because you are reputed to be more aggressive than the other drivers.
Well, I'll be honest. That's the first time I've heard of that. So I don't know where that came from.
What?
So it is not. So I'm giving you a nickname that doesn't actually exist, that I'm just producing for you that is not actually your nickname.
Maybe you have just started something. We'll see if it takes off.
Okay, well, I hope so because you deserve the nickname. I want to give it to you right now.
Just keep referring to him as Iceman no matter what.
Why did you make up a nickname?
I might as well. It's right here. It says it right here.
Oh,
it's the first thing on my sheet, the Iceman.
Do people call you Ben Solak by chance? Because I could also see that nickname.
I have literally never heard that before in my life. So.
It's wonderful.
He's good on football.
Thank you for being on with us, Iceman. You are, however, more aggressive than the other drivers. Explain to me how and why.
Oh, man. How and why? I want to win. That's why. I don't know how. I guess I just do it. I don't know. It's been a hell of a ride, though. It's been a lot of fun to be able to start the season off so strong. To win 3 out of the first however many races it's been has been, been great. And I'm excited about getting to Miami. Miami is a great racetrack. You guys broke news to me again by saying Homestead's getting renovated. I think that's awesome. And I'm excited about the future of that place.
Christopher, can we put you down for a second to see if we can get this audio fixed? Because
he's from his race car right now. That's actually where he's coming
inside
from.
a helmet.
I must admit, I saw a research packet on you, and I saw the Iceman, Christopher the Iceman Bell, and I'm like, man, I'm a NASCAR fan. I'd never heard that before. I guess I'm not that much of a fan. But apparently the Iceman, this is the first time he's heard it too. So do you not like NASCAR as much either? Are you surprised to find this out?
You guys got me? Can you hear me now?
We can hear you, but it sounds a bit distorted.
Echoey.
Yeah, I don't know what else to do here. So, but yeah, I don't know. I've never heard of Iceman, but I'll take it. I'll claim it.
Can you try taking your helmet off?
Sure. Where's my helmet at?
Chris, thank you so much for having fun with this. There was something that, again, I watch every race. I love NASCAR now, and there was something that I hadn't seen ever before, but that's not saying much because I've only been recently passionately following this sport for about 1.5 years. But it seemed like you and your crew exposed a loophole in the rules in Las Vegas. I had never seen this before. You're on pit road. It's decided that you have a left loose front tire, and then you run the risk if you go out onto the track, you're penalized 2 laps. 2 of your crew members get suspended. Your team makes the call very quickly to have you pit in your teammate's box. I didn't even know that you could do that. Did you even know that this was a legal loophole?
So I think it was last year or maybe 2 years ago. I remember Adam, my crew chief, he told me that, hey, if you ever have an issue, stop in your teammate's box and they'll hit all the lug nuts to make sure that the lug nuts are tight. And so that was the first time in a couple years that it has come up. And I think it's relatively new since the introduction of next gen, because the old cars, you had 5 lug nuts. And the odds of a wheel coming off were really, really low if you have 5 lug nuts. But with now only having 1, obviously, if you have a problem on the 1 lug nut, the wheel's going to come off. And yeah, it certainly saved us from damaging our car. Like if a wheel comes off and you start making, and you have to drive back to pit road, it just destroys the underbody of the car and really hurts the car performance. So it really saved us this weekend at Las Vegas.
When we talked to the college basketball coach, Rick Barnes, he wanted to talk about racing instead of basketball. If I give you the choice going into a conversation like this, would you prefer to talk about your profession, or would you prefer to talk about the Oklahoma City Thunder?
I'm a Thunder fan. I followed them through the offseason pretty good, but since I started racing, I haven't been able to really keep up with them. But I know they're doing really well. They're leading their conference, and fingers crossed, I would love to get to go to an NBA Finals game.
In order to be as great as you are at this, do you have to be lopsided? How much time do you even have for things other than the obsessive compulsive work you have to do?
Yeah, I mean, it's just such a long season. And certainly with us racing at a different track every single weekend, it doesn't leave much time to follow other things. But, you kind of get into a routine and a rhythm whenever you get into the summer where it opens it up a little bit. But certainly whenever, you're just getting the season started, I at least myself, I'm focused on, week to week and going through the new tracks. So, I haven't been following the Thunder very closely, but come June or May or June, I'm going to be following them really close if they keep advancing.
Will you ask for good seats?
Absolutely. Hopefully I get to be front row, courtside.
Okay. And so you're not bashful about that? You make that call yourself, or?
I mean, I might have someone else make it, but
you got people to do that for you. You've got people handling that for you. What is the worst part of the life?
The worst part of the life of what?
Yeah, that was weird.
The racing life.
Yeah.
The life, the lifestyle, the travel, the moving around. Like I know you guys love what you do, but what do you regard as the part that is hardest about what you do?
Man, that's a good question. I'll be honest, I don't know that I've ever been asked that, but I appreciate it. And I will say that I have the coolest job in the world. It is, I mean, how awesome is it that I get to drive race cars for a living? But on the flip side, it is still a job. And those days where just you have races that go really smooth, and I won 3 in a row. But then last weekend I still finished 12th, so it wasn't the end of the world. But it's like everything you do is wrong, and you can't pick the right lane on restarts, and it feels like you're just bashing your head against the wall. So, it's competitive. It's professional sports, and some days you win, some days you lose. But those losses are extremely hard at times. They can be, and the pressure's on, man. So, everyone wants to be a professional athlete, but I don't think, some people don't put into perspective the pressure that we're under.
It would appear that, all racers love racing, but you really love racing because I'm a Kyle Larson fan. He dismissed Max Verstappen once by saying, do it in the Chili Bowl, and I had no idea what the Chili Bowl was. And then I ordered Flow Racing, and I watched my first Chili Bowl, and it's dirt road racing. It's like basically souped up golf carts, guys going in a very small circle round and round, and you were in the middle of it too. And you're a really good driver. Why the Chili Bowl? Like, can you even explain the Chili Bowl to the layperson?
Yeah. So the cool thing about the Chili Bowl is it's number one, you named it, it's dirt track racing. And dirt track racing, the car is constantly in a state of drift, and you're sliding around the corners. And the driver matters a lot more on dirt tracks than it does on asphalt tracks. So NASCAR, which is America's top form of motorsports, the car matters a lot. And if you're a really good driver and you're in a slow car, like, you're not going to win. You're not going to be successful. But on dirt track racing, a really good driver can take a slower car and make it win races. So that's one thing that I love about dirt track racing, is that the driver matters a little bit more.
When you say casually the pressure we're under, can you articulate it?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how to articulate it more than there's, just millions of fans watching, millions of dollars being spent, and millions of time and hours and effort put into your race car. And it's all dependent on me doing my job and making sure that I hit my marks. And on top of hitting my marks and being fast, like not screwing up, like never spinning out, not coming down pit road, not running into people, not running into the pit crew members, stopping in the right spot on the pit box. Like there's just a ton of things that everybody is pouring, their heart and soul and money and resources into me to make sure that I do my job. And that can be said for everybody, all the drivers out there.
It can be, but I don't think necessarily that people know what the price is of dreams, right? So when you talk about these pressures or how exhausted you are after a race, can you sleep or are you adrenaline through the roof? What level of tired and drained are you to be at the end of that?
Yeah, well, it kind of goes both ways. Like if I really screw it up and I do a bad job, I won't sleep at all. Now, if I win, I won't sleep at all because I'm high on adrenaline and I'm pumped up. But it's the days that I do my job and I get the most out of my car and I finish third, fourth, whatever. Like then I can sleep okay. But definitely you win the race, you're pumped up, you're celebrating, you got buddies over, you're staying up those nights. And then the days that you really screw up, you're not sleeping because you're like, gosh, man, why did I do that?
NASCAR is known for its rivalries, driver rivalries. Who's a guy on the circuit that you don't particularly like? Or should I put it, who's the driver you would most like to beat by one car length at the flag?
You're really getting in there.
Oh man, that's easy. That's Larson all day. So me and him have a very similar upbringing, similar background. We both are dirt track racers, and we push each other to the edge of control all the time. And I think he would say the same thing, that he loves beating me and I love beating him.
Iceman, it's been nice seeing you. Thank you for coming on and lending us a racing credibility that clearly we would not have without you, and we now have even less because we've dubbed you the Iceman when you're not the Iceman. Thank you for being so icy, sir.
Hey, I appreciate it. I appreciate the nickname too.
Okay, I appreciate you being so kind about it because it could have been a lot worse and it still feels pretty bad. Thank you.
See you guys.
And also the submarine sound.
The nice man.
And also this question from Dan.
What is the worst part of the life? Not my best effort.
Wait, play the whole thing. Play the
silence.
The whole clip.
We did not edit this silence.
What is the worst part of the life?
The worst part of the life of what?
That was great.
The nice man.
The nice man.
Yeah, he was. Thank God he was nice. Okay, because that could have gone so poorly.
I never got his Jalen Milroe takes though. I would have loved to hear about combine quarterback takes from Ben Solak.
I can't tell you how frail I feel right now.
Well, you'll have a shot at redemption with Ryan Blaney later this week.
What is the worst part of the life?
You must ask Ryan Blaney the same exact question.
Yes.
I'll just play the clip.
And also make up a nickname for him as well.
All right, let's do that.
Well, call me Iceman.
Let's do both of these things. I'm going to make up a different. Let's make sure to start the next one the same way. Where I don't know, should I go Iceman or should I make up another?
You got to make something else
the
up.
wind turbine choices.
Maverick, what's the worst part of the life?
Oh my God! Now keep in mind, I'm gonna let people see fully behind the curtain on this. We were supposed to end that segment with a game I don't understand, which was Vroom or Vroom Vroom.
Yeah, it was a well-constructed game.
But I bailed on it because I didn't trust my prep that began with his nickname's the Iceman.
I was helping you with the Chili Bowl question. That was pretty revelatory.
One vroom would have just been meh, and two vrooms is like, oh, I'm in on that. Vroom, vroom.
Can we just play it now?
I'd like to play that game.
You play with my dad.
All right, let's do this with your father here.
All right,
Let's
Greg.
go.
Vroom or vroom vroom? You have 12 items in your cart, and the 10 or less
Why are you?
What did I do? What? Why are you? Where are you coming after? Like,
What did
you're
I
making
do?
noise back here.
I'm not
behind
making
me.
noises.
There's 10 item or less is wide open. You have 12 items.
I need to regroup.
Vroom or vroom vroom?
Well, that doesn't apply. What am I going, meh? Or you're darn right. Like, what does that mean? I hate people who go into an express lane with one item too many.
So that's vroom. You're vroom on that.
I'm the guy who counts the items of the person in front of me.
You're vroom on that.
Okay, I'm vroom.
I'm glad we didn't get to this.
Yeah, it's a bad idea.
Greg, so you're very religious on the fact that 10 means 10.
Yeah, I do.
You never sneak
I do.
an extra one in there, 11?
I always count my items. 'Cause
Small one?
I'm always wanting to get in there because I'm always in that, like, I'm always around 8 to 12 items. The way I shop. So I'm always like, oh man, I'm counting. I'm like, if I have 11, I'm just going and assuming that if they count, they'll miscount.
Gents, you know what I've done? I've started doing the self-checkout lane. I don't have to wait. I'm
Not
in
for
and
me.
out.
Not
Boom,
for
I
boom,
do
boom.
that occasionally.
I
as
take
well.
out the little gun and I scan it right in my thing. Boom,
Yeah.
boom, boom,
I
boom.
love that gun.
If you have produce though, I mean,
So
It takes a
annoying.
little
unless
bit
you're
longer
at Sprouts,
time, yeah.
you can
So I
scan
love
everything at
Sprouts,
Plus,
by the
I
way.
don't
I
like-
like Sprouts too.
Sprouts is the best.
Underrated.
I don't
I
like
went
how,
there yesterday.
What
I
are
don't-
your thoughts on Milam's?
Milam's?
Is it Milam's?
Yeah, Milam's, yeah.
Milam's.
Milam's,
What are
yeah.
your thoughts on Milam's?
I'm a Sprouts guy.
I don't like how they demand you to put it in the bag at the self check. It's like, put the next item. It's like, no, I'm just gonna like put it right
Can
here.
I scan all my stuff? Yeah.
It's like almost like you can't scan the next item. You have not put it in the bag yet. It's like, stop. I'll put it where I want to put it. All right, I scanned it. That's all you're worried about here. Don't worry about if I put it in the bag or not.
By the way, I do have a grace period on the express lane. If it's 10 or less items and you have 11, maybe 12, I'm going to let that go. But if it's more than 13, the play is when the other person's leaving but still within earshot, I say to the cashier, I guess that guy couldn't count, huh?
I have a top 5 receding hairlines.
I like this. Let's do it.
But it's not any receding hairline, okay? I'm not going like straight back like Walton Goggins, which I like how Hardy leans in. I'm going your V-shaped receding hairline.
Oh, yeah, the Dracula look.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Number 5, Orlando Magic point guard Scott Skiles.
Wow, Scotty.
Number 4, this one's kind of sneaky because he's blonde and it doesn't stick out as much, but Daniel Craig. Number 3, newlywed, Justin Thoreau. Number 2, Billy Donovan.
Classic.
And number 1, comic book Norman Osborn.
Dad, this is very exciting. I've been wanting to get to this all show. Dan's still ashamed of that last segment, so he's not back yet.
Yeah, should be.
You had on your list of topics today top 5 teams you're watching in the tournament. Like,
Yes.
It's not your top 5 teams, but just teams you're interested in watching. Explain this process.
Well,
to us.
I'll be interested in watching 5 particular teams for a certain reason. I'm going to let you guys figure out what the running theme of this list is.
Or are they like number 5? We can do like a countdown. All right, let's go.
All right, number 5. From the first 4 play-in round, they played tonight, American University, led by third leading scorer Greg Jones.
I see where we're going with this.
Got my eye on them too.
Number 4.
The Patriots.
Number 3 seed in the East, Wisconsin, coached by the incomparable Greg Gard.
Swing set, won by a lot.
Number 3, 9 seed in the South, Creighton, coached by Greg McDermott.
And how they divvy up those electoral votes.
Kind of one note this bit, but all right.
Number 2, 8 seed in the Midwest, Gonzaga, led by 6th leading scorer Ben Gregg.
Reaching for that one.
And number 1, 10 seed in the South region, the New Mexico Lobos, because Bo's back Bo's.
Coached by Richard Pitino.
Yeah, how about that?
He reshaped his career after losing his job over in Minnesota.
How about that?
Lobos are back.
Lobos are back. Really good.
Jack.
Didn't we have somebody from the Lobos on our podcast? The
one that you and I do? I'm not exactly sure.
No. They
so many podcasts these days.
like the mayor. I think the mayor of the town or something was on our podcast bragging about the Lobos. I don't know. Move on.
Greg, how much of the NCAA tournament are you actually going to watch?
I'm going to be very honest with you. I start paying real attention when it gets to the Sweet 16. Like I want the wheat, separate the chaff.
So you don't like the weekend that everybody likes.
Right.
Because this is the one.
Thursday, Friday's it, baby.
I mean, this is the one where you just get games.
I know.
They slow down after the first weekend.
I don't need that many games, and I think Cinderella is a fallacy in the NCAA. Like the 16 beating the 1 has happened, 3 times in history? Like I don't rely on that. I want good teams, survivors. You know, when it gets down to the Sweet 16, certainly the Elite 8, that's when I really start dialing in.
I love when there's so many games that you're trying to figure out, do I have True TV? I don't know. Where is it? And it's like, oh, it's channel 374. It's like, I didn't even know that. What's on there?
Time-honored tradition of seeing Impractical Jokers promos headed into every break.
Literally, I woke up on my couch at 2 a.m. this morning because I had fallen asleep.
Attaboy.
And Practical Jokers on. It was great.
What show's that?
You don't...
It's these 4 guys.
He'll
well,
find
now
out soon
3
enough.
guys.
He'll find out soon enough.
Okay. Well, no, because they're not going to be on True TV by the time he starts watching.
It's amazing that he doesn't know about it just because of once a year we all get inundated with Impractical Jokers ads. But
maybe he's
it's
just
also
watching the women's tournament because that one's on mostly ESPN.
I'll tell you what, and I'm not alone, and it wasn't just Caitlin Clark either or Angel Reese, but last year was the first year that I personally was as interested or more interested in the women's NCAAs than the men's. I just found it more compelling. The storylines were better. And this year, I was thinking it would fall off the table because Caitlin was gone. This year, I think Jessica, what do you think? I think the momentum of the women's game has sustained. I think it's as good as last year.
I'm not a father, but I can attest to that. I read that ESPN women's basketball ratings were up this season, so still climbing, which is something that I said last year when everyone's like, oh, after Caitlin Clark goes to WNBA, no one's going to watch anymore, blah, blah, blah. No, it's still interesting. I think this year is going to be great because there's a lot of teams that could win. And there's a lot of stars. Look, Juju Watkins, yes, is a star. Paige Beckers is a star. Hannah Hidalgo, Olivia Miles are stars. Lauren Betts. There's a ton of household names in women's basketball.
Cameron Brink.
From where I'm standing,
she's in the W, but she is also a star.
Good try.
For ACL, she's on the comeback tour now, though.
Former college
That was
player.
a good try by you, though.
It was. You know what? No bad ideas.
taste.
To be honest, though, I don't think he can name a current male NCAA player right now.
Right. Well. I. That's why I'm not.
Greg?
He knows one Duke player.
The story of the
Greg.
The story of the tournament is Cooper Flagg.
Attaboy.
Will he play in the opener? Should they hold him out until the round of 16? How are they going to handle that?
I think women's college basketball is easier to follow. I think they do a better job of marketing their stars, and also there's fewer teams that have a legit chance to win the championship, and they're actually, I think, fairly covered well in the sport. It's unavoidable if you follow sports to know exactly what South Carolina is doing, what Juju Watkins is doing, what the top upper echelon of stars are doing in that sport. Whereas college basketball feels a little bit more random. You know, the Cooper Flaggs of the world, but the teams that have a real chance, it's there's just more of them. So I for that reason, I can kind of tangentially follow women's college basketball much easier than I can follow the men's game.
Yeah, and I think the rise in the women's game has been just magnificent in the last few years. I can only speak for myself. There was a time when it was all about the men's tournament for me. I barely paid any attention to the women's tournament. Now I think them as comparable competitions, every bit as good as each other. So it's go women. It's been great.
Greg, so you're going to not be watching tomorrow. I actually love that. You know why? Don't look now. We got... Uh-oh. Sorry, I shouldn't have said that.
What happened?
It's time for a new game. Don't look now.
This is where you close your eyes, Dad.
Yeah, Greg, do
no
not
peeking.
look. Yeah, don't look.
Love how you had to put down your coffee to not look. You could just close your eyes. You don't have to cover your face like that.
I got 2 hands and 2 eyes.
Let me make sure I'm
can't hear
closing
you.
mine here. All right.
Yeah.
What are we not looking at right now,
All right,
Tony?
so we've got a lot of watching to do, a lot of looking to do. In the next couple of days, we got the NCAA tournament, we got hoops, we got a bunch of different things, right? But I'm telling you, don't look now. Nicole Hardman is a Packer.
Wow.
Huh.
Anybody interested? Who knew?
Wow.
What do we think that means?
That was a guy when he was on a Chiefs. When he's on the Chiefs, I was
We
like,
thought he was the next
he could be
Tyreek Hill.
something. He
Yeah.
could be something.
Yeah, McCole.
Don't look now.
Greg, your eyes are open.
Greg, the whole thing is don't look.
Oh, yeah.
Okay?
Good.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I have not been able to shake
Damn.
that last segment off of me.
Welcome back, though.
Were
Is
you
this really
hiding
him?
in the bathroom?
I was ashamed. I was sinking into my own shame.
Well, Dan, don't look now, but after re-signing T. Higgins and Jamar Chase, Joe Burrow said, we've got the right guys.
Wow, what a comment.
What else is he going to say?
Great quote.
What else is he going to say?
Is it
We
a
got the
great
wrong
quote?
guys?
Is it a great
This is a
quote?
very
Succinct.
Dad, if your eyes are clearly open but just being blocked by a piece of paper, that's looking.
I'm not. I'm looking at a piece of paper.
He's not looking, Chris. This is
Thank you.
It's giving me Miami Heat, the power of friendship vibes. Like, I'm not. I know you have the right guys on offense, but that wasn't the problem last
Yeah,
year.
exactly. Don't look now. BG, Brandon Graham, officially retires from the Eagles.
Wow.
15 years in the NFL.
Why can't we look at that?
Be respectful, Dan.
Wouldn't he want that looked
Be
at?
respectful.
Dan's back. Dan, shut your eyes.
Dan, do not look. Be respectful
Don't
about
look
BG
now,
and Brandon
but
Graham.
Mike Ryan is being forcibly restrained on the couch.
Who's looking at that?
Not me.
Okay, just making sure, because
He's
you
not
said
looking,
that. I don't know how did
which
you.
is-
how
He's
did
not
you know
looking, which is the problem.
Okay.
Oh God, he's on the move.
Another one here, Dan. I think this one's really important. And the last one here, of Don't Look Now. Patriots signed free agent center Grady Bradbury, filling a major need on their offensive line.
That's
not worth looking at.
Don't Look Now is presented by Smirnoff,
And his name's Garrett.
the world's #1 vodka. Please drink responsibly.
That's what I said.
But you weren't looking, so I think you said Grady.
Did I say Grady?
I don't know. You weren't looking.
Okay.
I wasn't looking
All
either.
right, guys, we got to do better than that. We've got to do better than we've done for the last 30 minutes.
Oh, it's been a great hour.
I thought you were gonna say like 12 years, but then you said 30 minutes.
I want a competing bit called "Looky Here."
Why 12 years? Why
I don't
would
know.
it-
I picked a
why
random number out of
12?
my
Why
ass.
wouldn't it, why wouldn't
20.
it be 20 years?
I figured 12's like when you started at ESPN, maybe. I don't know.
I am feeling.
I don't know the timeline.
Looky Here is what you want to play.
Yeah, looky here.
I could.
I actually don't hate it. Let's flesh it out. What do you mean?
what?
Looky
Let's-
here. What
let's
are we
have that
looking
be
at?
the clear spin-off to Don't Look Now, Looky Here, a
Right.
totally different game.
Got to come up with topics, though, Dad.
Yeah.
Well, that's off the top of my head. I got a storyboard in my own mind. But looky here, I'm informing people about something that they need
Mike,
to
you can
think
look
about.
now.
Yeah, Mike.
Mike,
Mike, yeah, you
Look
can
at
look
here.
now. We're on to Looky
I
Here.
release you.
It's totally different, Mike.
Ooh, I've
don't
got
look.
one.
Don't look now. You got to wear a blindfold. Looky Here. You're allowed to look.
Right.
Greg, looky here. Did you see Tua partying at the club?
I did not.
Looky here.
How about
Take a
less
look at
partying,
that.
more winning?
I can hear people screaming. No, it's not Don't Look Now anymore. It's Looky Here now. It's
Right.
Looky Here. You're now allowed to look. We've changed. We've got a spin-off.
Looky here. North Carolina is underrated and deserved to make the tournament. That would
Well,
be
but
an
that's
example.
the slow report.
Yeah, that would have been my looky here from yesterday.
No, but that's
had
not,
we
okay,
debuted it
okay, but what if
yesterday.
we were doing it right now? What if we were doing Looky Here right now? Can you come up with something that? See, this is this. Look, we are shaking at the end of a work week. That's look.
It's Wednesday.
I just got here.
No, I want to paint this picture so that people
Well,
understand.
it's a Wednesday that feels like a Thursday because we were here Sunday.
It's not even just that, though. The old warhorse, Greg Cody, we've been riding this pack mule now for months, multiple times a week. When he gets to the end of the second work shift, he's been beaten down.
Correct.
I know this.
Yeah.
And so
I'm slump-shouldered.
you're hurting here, and you're giving us the best that you've got.
Right.
But it's why a couple of hours ago, it's you in the batter's box. It's a cleanup hitter. There's not a lot left in the
Yeah.
tank at this point in the
Yeah.
week for you.
Can tank Oris.
See, not a lot left.
Looky here.
He's gonna give you the best of what he's got, but there's not a lot left. But right now, based on the news of the day, can we get from the football take guy whatever it is that you want to do? Cam Ward's #1, Aaron Rodgers, the Vikings don't want him. You can give me a looky here right now and debut the game producing yourself if you've still got anything in the tank.
Okay. All right. What do you want? Like 3, 5?
I just want looky here and whatever it is you want to do with looky here to really sell this new game that you just invented. Don't Look Now has been replaced by looky here.
Looky here. This is not a great NFL draft for quarterbacks. Cam Ward at #1, even he is not assured of being a big star.
I'm looking at that.
Looky here. The way they're playing lately, should the Miami Heat even want to make the playoffs? I say tank a little bit. Give me a mini tank, finish 11th, avoid the purgatory of the play-in.
Don't they have a unprotected pick? What is that?
He hasn't considered that.
Yeah, pick schmick.
Again, that's a totally
There it
different
is.
conversation. We're not looking at that right
He
now.
doesn't
What we're
wanna
looking
You're
at
right. I'm
is
sorry.
making sure that they don't make the playoffs to then figure out whatever's next. A couple of years ago, they could have had Wembanyama, though.
Good point.
Thank you.
Well, he's been making it for a long time. Tony, I think, debuted. I think that was the original looky here for Tony. Was it not that you were suggesting that Heat playoff run against the Bucks, that it should have started with a tank for the
Why is Mike taunting me
He's
right
looking.
now.
He's looking now.
He's looking.
Yeah.
Oh, looky
Before
here.
made him.
Wouldn't
You,
look.
those were
Literally.
so
Told
good.
him to looky here.
You were
Okay,
look.
that's
You
a little
gave.
close.
You gave him.
Mind my personal space.
He's rattled and he's losing energy as this goes. Zaslow's going to be brought in. Look, it's not easy to replace the Hall of Famer Stugotz. We try. What just happened there?
I turned it into an Eskimo and rubbed his
Did
nose.
Mike Ryan?
I don't know if we call it that anymore.
Did Mike Ryan?
Why? You can't say Eskimo?
Please stop.
There's a ice cream. There's an ice cream sandwich called the Eskimo pie. What are we going to change the name of that to?
Hopefully not.
The Eskimo people are great people.
All right, Dad. Just you don't have to quadruple down.
Right.
You've said enough.
They don't all live in igloos, by the way. I'm not making a stereotype.
You're making it better.
Thank you.
Dan, to answer your question, yes, that was the original Lookie.
No, let's
here.
just sit in it. Let's just Tone. Just back off.
trying to help.
No, I thank you.
It's on the ball in the air.
No, but this is what I'm. Look, this
Off
is
the
what
shingled
You
roof.
can't say Eskimo anymore.
All right. I have been falling apart for 45 straight minutes.
You really
okay?
have.
Okay, but wait a minute. You're not making anything better, and I just need you to shut up for a second.
Yeah.
Okay? I simply, what I need most from you right now is just silence. Okay?
Why don't you play Dan's terrible question again?
What is the worst part of the life?
This guy's telling me to shut up.
I didn't see it because it was out of the corner of my eye, but I'm pretty sure that Greg Cody just rubbed one of those giant nostrils across the face of Mike Ryan, who could not stay in character because of how it felt to have one of those giant nostrils graze him. Is that what?
The photo.
I do have big nostrils. Equine.
We've not taken a better picture than that. Please put that up behind me. Put it where that nostril. Look, there you can see Mike Ryan trying to stay in character, but
it looks photoshopped.
It does. It can't have really happened.
That can't smell good to Mike.
And vice versa.
We're back, Dan. Huh? Rough couple minutes, but we're back.
Well, we do nothing better than sink into the incompetence. It's available so frequently. It's so available. Hold on, let me get my head out of the way so that, yeah.
There it is.
They can put that on the tombstone of our show and I'd be good with it. Because I'd be totally good. All of that, Mike, the smells, the scents, where you're holding your breath like that, Greg Cody that close to you is that nostril that close to you is substantive.
It would take a lot to make me stand down. I'm not saying that I stood down. But
I no
was
longer
close.
have the most awkward stutter of this segment. Dan, thank you. I was lost for words earlier when Greg said that Cameron Brink was still at Stanford. And I tried to let him slide, and I was like, "It's fine."
He's trying.
It's not been a good hour for Greg. It's been moving a little bit fast. I did want to ask you guys, because this one struck me yesterday as something that we didn't quite explore enough. Billy Gill and Greg Cody being against the fun of the Savannah Bananas. Just against 65,000 people coming out to a football stadium and filling it to see an invention of creativity that has crashed the sports market and fills the stadium in a way that's lunacy for minor league sports. And Greg's against it. And it also represents like breaking through on just, hey, sports can be fun. And Greg's against it. And Billy's against it. And I'm like, why would you be that aggressively against something just because it's popular? And it's popular because people are just enjoying something that's kind of goofy and fun and silly.
Yeah, I'm against it as the unwarranted phenomenon it has become. You know, it's a clown show disguised as sports. It's not baseball. You know, it's family entertainment. I get it. I get it why kids want to see it. it's a circus. It's a carnival. That's all it is. I don't even put it in the category of sports. You know, I maybe if I were 8 years old, 10 years old, I would be enraptured with it. But as an adult, I'm going, really? People love that?
It's rare to have an unwarranted phenomenon. In fact, I'm scanning my brain. I think the only unwarranted phenomenon was that one U2 album that showed up on everybody's phone.
Good point.
But it just seems like such a strange thing to shake your fist at in sports that...
Do you hate the Harlem Globetrotters too?
Exactly. You know, that's what he was saying. That his point yesterday was yes, that he also aggressively hates the Harlem Globetrotters.
Okay, but the Harlem Globetrotters had their day, and I know they're still around. Technically, they still tour and everything.
And now the Bananas are.
But obviously, they aren't what they used to be. I thought we, as a society, had outlived that kind of a clown show. That's all.
We did, and we pivoted
Yeah,
to white guys.
Our society's so evolved.
Now it's white guys in baseball.
They went to a sport that needed it, though, right? I mean, baseball is slow, so it's like we can do something with this sport.
Right.
It takes a lot of skill, but let's do bells and whistles. You love it, like with your
Guy on
show.
stilts.
Every episode, you're like, can we get a few bells
running
and
the
whistles?
bases.
It's all made better by a guy on stilts.
How's he running? How's he turning second?
Oh, a guy on
He's on
stilts.
stilts.
Put it on the poll at Le Batard Show. Guy on stilts make everything better? Greg Cody's still mad at Billy Corbin and said that coward jackass didn't show up.
It's true.
Iliza Shlesinger is next. Hello, Iliza. It's nice to see you again.
Nice to see you again, Dan.
She was on South Beach Sessions, if you have not seen her, and she's got a new special out, A Different Animal. It's currently streaming on Amazon Prime. She's on tour now with U.S. and international dates through the end of 2025, and she's got shows in Florida all of next weekend, March 28th at Hard Rock in Hollywood, March 29th at Hard Rock Orlando, and March 30th, Hard Rock in Tampa. You can find dates and tickets at Iliza.com. Iliza Shlesinger with us. Thank you for joining us. You could catch her on South Beach Sessions. We had a long-form conversation. How's the tour going?
Tour's going great. It's wrapping up after Florida. Those are our last U.S. dates, and then the new tour kicks off in the fall, randomly in Estonia. But I don't expect your listeners to make it out to that show. So the tour's going great. I appreciate being on here. This ring light is working overtime for this 9 a.m. interview with me.
How do you feel about touring? It takes you away from the family. Sometimes you can bring the family with you, obviously, but how do you feel about it?
You know, this is my job. And so it changes when you become a parent. I decided as a treat / punishment, my daughter gets to come with me to Florida this time. I lured her there by telling her there's going to be a lot of fruit and tropical fruit in the green room. So a little baby has never been more excited to be at a casino.
Last time that I spoke to you, you avoided generally social media commentary, but the praise for your comedy special has been strong. Are you still avoiding it?
Yeah, I took Instagram off my phone, and my social media team looks at it. So I think social media, especially as a comic, should be a one-way street. Like, I do the output, but we're closed for the feedback, because at 42, we know the compliments, and the insults are always regenerating. So I'll just avoid those for the time being.
What do you love about this special? Obviously, you are now a veteran. You have polished these things. Do you feel about this better than you have about others? I know you sort of have to say that, but what have you learned?
You know, as a mother of two, I just turned 42. I think this comedy is all about giving people a really good time. You know who I am when you sign up to come see my show. You know that you're going to get a little bit of insight wrapped in comedy, but I think we're all kind of going through a weird, tough time, just with everything going on. So I think more than anything now, this is incisive, raucous, a lot of fun. It's very physical. I really do think it's fun for the whole family. I don't know if you can bring your whole family to a casino, but I think there is really something for everyone, because I genuinely want to include everyone in my stand-up. So if you leave feeling offended, maybe you shouldn't be watching stand-up at all.
Ooh, that's actually a great segue to something I wanted to ask you. We have male comedians come on our show all the time, and I'm a huge fan of yours, by the way. But they come on and they always make degrading comments about women that we just let slide. So I was wondering if you could say something degrading about men.
Yeah. Oh, it's in the special, so don't you worry. It's actually baked into my body of work. Look, I really think as a real feminist, my job is to hate everyone equally, and I think that. Truthfully, I always want women to leave feeling good from my shows. I am one and I see the things that we're up against, but you don't have feminism without men agreeing. And no man wants to buy a ticket to a show to be told that you're a problem or to be made to feel bad. So I do believe in bringing everyone in and insulting everyone equally. And, we have an audience that's 60% men. So I'm sorry, 40% men. So I think they get the memo. But when men degrade women, it just reeks of like, I'm sorry you didn't have sex in high school, and you're like still bitter about that.
Is this
Speak of the devil.
Is this an especially good time or an especially dangerous time to get into whatever you would consider to be political humor?
Incidentally, you're talking to somebody who didn't actually have sex in high school because he lost his virginity at 23. We learned
22,
yesterday.
Actually. 22.
Well, maybe back in the 20s it was different. No, I'm just kidding. Maybe contraceptions were different back then.
It was the 30s, so quit maligning me.
My mistake. It was called the Great Depression for a reason.
Yes, it was.
I'm not a political comic. I mean, look. You could probably tell by the tone of my voice, like a little bit how I vote, but I believe that we all contain multitudes, and I believe it's a case-by-case basis, and I don't expect people who live in a rural area to agree with people who live in a city. My comedy is never political. It's always social, and I really pride myself on having a really nice mix of liberal, conservative, queer, your grandpa, whatever. I do a lot of work with our USO. I have a lot of military in our shows. I have a lot of people that span all political spectrums. And I think they keep coming back because there's certain inalienable truths in the comedy that I have. I don't know if my comedy brain is firing on all cylinders at 9 a.m.
Can you explain to us what the feeling is with a special coming out? You've been sculpting this work for a year or longer, I would assume. So is it relief? Is it excitement? Is it nerves? Is it all of it?
Dan, you asked such elegant questions, and I love that you said sculpting because it really is a piece of art. And I guess it's my 7th special, so I've been here before, I know the feeling, but there is an excitement of this thing that you crafted, and you have to, as an artist, just realize once you release it to the public, it's no longer mine. I stand behind everything that I said, but it's up for people to interpret and digest, regurgitate, reject, embody however they want to. And so I'm excited to see the way the fans receive it over the next year. And I'm excited to see what those jokes turn into for the next special. So it's a roller coaster.
Are these political times good for you, though, comedy-wise, not any other way?
I feel like political times always equate to a rough economy. So, that's why I'm begging people to come out to see me at the Hard Rock so you can see a show and see Christina Aguilera's shoe right next to me. I think good or bad political time, people still need to laugh. And, I'm not getting up there and giving a full expose on the war in Ukraine. People, if anything, more than anything, need a way to get away from their problems and step into a dark room and laugh with a bunch of strangers who may not be like you. Maybe you meet your wife there. Who knows? So comedy always is good business.
What are the 3 comedians or comedians that you will check out whatever it is they're doing with a degree of enthusiasm, excitement? You'll make sure to find it and, just admire it.
I can't say I would make sure because that would suggest that I have the free time to watch full hours of stand-up. But I always enjoy, if I'm at a show and we're all doing spots, I'll always come back in the room to watch Sebastian Maniscalco. I think he's very funny. If Cat Williams is doing something, I know that's so random. I've always been a fan. I'd have to think of the other one, but I will tell you, I do make sure to watch a lot of younger comics, and I produced several 10-minute specials called Iliza's Locals, which you can watch on Hulu, and we just did the 2nd season, which will be out on Amazon coming up this year. So I'm always down for watching new talent, helping to shape and hone and polish jokes. And so those are the things that take up my time.
One of the things that I've been interested in, and Cat Williams spoke of this when he did that Shannon Sharp interview, is pointing to the Joe Rogan comedians. And he was saying none of those guys are funny, but they are running comedy. And the amount of popularity that Rogan's guys are getting and the economy that is in Austin that now feeds Kill Tony and an assortment of other things. Where is your assessment on Cat Williams saying, I don't like the people that Joe Rogan knights, even understanding that I'm asking you a bit of a dangerous question there?
No, I'm not afraid of anything. There's no backlash here. I mean, people that would be angry at that answer are going to be angry regardless. Look, comedy is a meritocracy, and you don't have to like who's successful, but you can't knock the fact that it happens, you know? And especially now with the internetification of comedy, comics have more access to finding their audience. There's no kingmakers anymore. You don't have to go on the Tonight Show and be anointed. Greg, I know you miss those days. You don't have to go on Star Search. It doesn't have to be because you had this special set. So you are finding comics who are able to find their niche audience and do really well, and they're not even household names. So that's good and that's bad. But I don't think you benefit ever from coming out and saying who you really hate and why, because even if you're right, it always sounds like sour grapes.
I'm curious what you think of the TV series Hacks and how accurate you think it is.
It's so accurate. It's so scathingly accurate. I wish I could just get in a room with those writers and be like, but how do you know this? She, of course, reminds me of Joan Rivers, but I remember I watched the whole thing. I was reticent to watch it because I was like, you know, as a woman who's tried to pitch a show about a female comic, you're always told that no one would watch it. And then you have Marvelous Miss Maisel and this. So there goes to show you. But when she tried to get her own late night show and she couldn't, I cried watching it. And I think a lot of women cried because we all know that feeling of trying and just being told that you're not right, you're not good enough at all times. So the show, it's like a ghost of Christmas future, Christmas past. Like, I hope to be that scathingly honest and bitter and intelligent and well-dressed when I'm Gene Smart's age in that show.
There's no more famous story of the way that women can be mistreated in comedy than Joan Rivers being run off the road the moment that she started competing with Johnny Carson after Johnny Carson and helped her in so many ways, and she helped him in so many ways.
Yeah, I mean, I think what it comes down to, and for the girl who's there, I'm sorry, I don't know your name, but I'm glad that you're here. I'm glad there's another girl here. I think it comes down to women contain multitudes and do great things. And as much as we get pit against one another, it usually is like a bitter male comic secretly stepping on your neck. Like, I have seen those tantrums in my own interviews. I've had male comics walk out of a podcast. I've had male DJs walk out. I've had men who, you know, I might have the wrong inflection and then all of a sudden they're upset. So we always are told to get this tough skin, but I would give that advice right back.
Oh, my name's Lucy, by the way.
Lucy, nice to meet you. I'm sorry.
I would assume that
Charlotte.
it is a world of atrophied adolescents, close to toddlers is what I would assume the world is.
Yeah, I think to criticize these things as a woman, you just get called a bitch. And even when you go on some of these podcasts and you agree with the host, you know, you're still subjected to the comment section, which is why I turned that thing off. And so you are dealing with gigantic children. But for some reason, if you're smart enough to know that, somehow that makes you the problem. And so it is this weird catch-22 of like being just smart enough to know the environment, but like not being able to comment on it. So the answer is make your own money, sell out your own shows, get your own fans as a comic so you don't have to ask anybody for anything. And that is my favorite part of this job is I don't require permission.
What do you love and hate about the road?
Oh my God, I don't think we have enough time. I love making this is so dorky, but like I just did it. I love making a connection. I'll call it like a butthole tight connection in a big airport and walking from one plane onto another. Like you feel like you nailed it. I love that. I love obviously the performing and the fans. I don't love trying to find like a good salad late night in a city like Buffalo. I don't love missing my family. But But I do love the travel, and I do love seeing those miles get racked up, and I do love being the only woman in first class sometimes. And I love getting to see all the different types of fans all across the world and our country, because it gives me a true working knowledge of this amazing country. Because it's very easy to sit in somewhere like Los Angeles and live in your bubble, although Los Angeles is like 70% Latino, so it is pronounced buble. But it's very easy to sit here and have judgments about everyone else, but then you go to those cities. Like, I've been to Gary, Indiana, the murder capital of the world. You know, you go to Cincinnati, you go to New York, you go to whatever, to get some real context, and you realize, oh my God, people are good everywhere. And that's why I don't just like take aim randomly because someone's politically different. Like, we are all mostly good people just trying to like live our lives and eat some buffalo wings at 2 a.m.
Give me some of the moment or a moment on this particular tour where you have been awed by either the size or the emotion of the crowd, and compared it to something in your past early in the journey where you were like, man, I'm a long distance from that catastrophe when I used to tour.
I appreciate that question. That would suggest that I have any gratitude. And as a comic, I don't. I only ever think about the ways that I'm failing. And I know as a woman, I'm supposed to be like so grateful. I'm never in awe of the size of the crowd because I look at those ticket counts, so I always know what we're walking into. But I will say, I brought my daughter to my show in Vancouver, which was incredible. They're always amazing. And she watched from side stage. And at the end, she ran out. No one told her to. She ran out, and I scooped her up. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, I started talking about like hand jobs and vodka sodas at 21, like getting paid like free chicken fingers at like a bar in Santa Barbara, like wherever. And now there's like a little girl here that I deliberately had. And so that was a weird first. And I toured pregnant with both kids. So I turned over and I was like, I can't believe that this little girl is here. And that I let her stay up till like 11 o'clock, which is really bad parenting.
Oh, but that's such a great snapshot that you're describing at the top of your profession where, I mean, that's just the coolest. How old is she when this is happening?
So she was a little bit under 3 and she just turned 3. And so just like her little legs running out, and she wasn't afraid of the crowd or anything. It was just a magical moment to like scoop her up, and I knew I got to be backstage with her. Normally there's a dog waiting for me, but having her back there, and I was like, oh wow, you ate all the fruit in the green room? And so
you were actually paid in chicken fingers. That how early in the career was that where the act paid you in chicken fingers?
So the secret was, and this is before everybody got paid. You know, now you get paid to do your spots around town, but this was, I had a day job. This would have been, I got a gig in Santa Barbara. So I left my day job at 6 o'clock. I drove down there, and like at the time, no one was really getting paid, or at least I wasn't. But you got free dinner at this bar, and they gave you 20 minutes because you couldn't get 20 minutes at the time in LA. I was like 25 because no one knew who I was. So I got free chicken fingers, and I got to fill up my own gas tank and pay for it. So that was that.
March 28th at Hard Rock in Hollywood, March 29th at Hard Rock Orlando, March 30th, Hard Rock in Tampa. If you want dates and tickets, Iliza.com. Help us settle an argument from yesterday. People are yelling at me because they say I ruined and spoiled the Righteous Gemstones because I told everybody that Walton Goggins is funny when doing full frontal and angry. What are the rules on this in the modern age? Can you help me, please?
On spoilers?
Yes.
I think you have to put a spoiler alert if it's within. Does Righteous Gemstones, and I should know this because I was on it last season, do they release them all at once?
Hold on a second. No, it's not. No. Hold on.
Look at me, Lucy.
It's just a name drop. When you said I was on it last season, we like to, it's a look at me situation.
Oh, yeah. I was on it. Good luck finding me. I'm in a giant wig. But I should know. I don't remember if they drop them all at once or if it's appointment viewing. Do you know?
It's supposed to be appointment viewing. I thought that this was one of the shows that we all talk about at the same time.
I think you get to do a spoiler alert. Like, I think if it comes out that week, you have to write spoiler alert. But if we're a week out from it, I think then you missed it. It's appointment viewing. But I think always writing spoiler alert or saying it so people have a chance to tune out is online courtesy.
I reject that as a suggestion uniformly. I will
I
not
didn't say
accept.
trigger warning. I said spoiler alert. They're different.
It is nice to see you again. Iliza.com is where you go. A different animal is currently streaming on Amazon Prime. There it is. Look at that. Look. There. Wait a minute. What? Look at that. What?
I just knew it would be a great way to go out.
Yes, that's a great dismount. Looks deeply unhappy, that animal.
She is.
Projecting, Dan.
Spliff Notes is sponsored by Jimmy John's. They're finally here, and they're hot. Try the new toasted sandwiches at Jimmy John's. Order one today.
Where's that giant Jimmy John's giant pillow that you had yesterday? Because they sent
pillow.
this
It's
in.
a bag of chips.
Okay, giant giant bag of chips that looks like a pillow.
Right.
Yes, it's good work by you.
Only 100 calories here in this bag.
I have still not been able to shake my Iceman mistake. I am still suffering from Tell Us About the Life. Juju Gotti, please soothe me. I'm sure the internet was very kind about my vulnerability and my awkwardness.
Before we get to that, I'd just like to throw a celebration.
Yes.
Thank you to Jimmy John's. I see you. Holy moly. Spliff Notes is finally sponsored, man. Oh, my goodness. Salute. Big salute to Jimmy John's. If you're out there and you're hungry right now, I suggest you go get you a sub ASAP pronto.
That turkey avocado sandwich they have is divine.
Oh, yes.
I'm a Club
That's
Lulu
not the
man
only
myself.
thing.
Club Lulu.
Yep.
Or the Italian nightclub. That's my favorite. I love the Italian nightclub.
Hey, me too, dog. Me too. But yeah, dog, you know how we usually give out $2 fines? I think we should give $2 to whoever put the Iceman in Dan's notes because it made everything worth it today. Oh, my God. Claps to whoever
Yes,
did
way to
that.
go,
Hear that,
Kugler.
Kugler?
Yes.
Right
The best
on.
move is always make Dan look like a fool. Yes. A universal joke that will pay till the end of time.
Yes, sir. And also salute to Jason Granados too, man. The YouTube breaks, the flashbacks. Oh my God, they've been chef's kiss. The whole crowd been loving it, man. I think the only question to ask you, Dan, right now, as we look at the beautiful room, look at them. Oh my God, my brother Danny. I got one question for you, Dan. What's the hardest part of the life?
What is the worst part of the life? What is the worst?
Dan, remember when you asked that?
What an idiot.
Do you know how hard it is to be the idiot on the day we have a giant photo of Greg and Mike nose to nose? and incidentally, Greg still wants to defend. He spent the entire break looking up why it is he shouldn't be using Eskimo anymore, and he wants to double down on it.
I mean, I don't mean to insult anybody. Technically, I want to say the indigenous people of the Inuit nation or whatever, but I didn't think
That's not respectful.
It is a mouthful. He's right. It's a mouthful.
But the or whatever's, it makes it more of a mouthful to make it the or whatever there.
No, honestly, I referenced Eskimo to support you and the Iceman nickname because Eskimos are associated with ice and the Great Northwest and all that stuff. So that's the only reason I did that. But mean no disrespect to any people. I'm a lover, not a hater.
Kind of thing.
That kind of thing.
You can just apologize. It's okay, but you want...
To anyone who I may have offended,
oh boy,
I'm sort of sorry.
All right, Juju. Any other thoughts on today's show or anything from the week? We have missed you for the post games the last couple of days. You've done an exceptional job covering the Unrivaled. Thank you to all of you who bombarded me with us being bought and paid for by John Skipper's investment in Unrivaled. It is not that. Juju has loved.
We just love good sport around here.
Also, good follow. Good follow. Also, Kristen Graceler, Roz Gold. They've been doing a fantastic job all year covering the Unrivaled League, even though David Sampson hated on their commercial. That's another thing. David Sampson, you have a whole segment committed to you every year, every week where you get to just tell us how good nothing personal is. Let the ladies have their promo commercial. We don't have to do that to them. They've been doing a great job. Salute to the unrivaled champions, the Rose, the long in the tooth, no more, Chelsea Gray. She slayed all the haters. Oh, my God. And I seen my sister, Jessica Ann Lehman, out there. What a perfect cherry on top to the unrivaled season.
What is the critique of the Samson segment today? Anything good or bad come out of that?
Brother, we need to start putting some trigger warnings on David Samson segments because just for meanie pants. Like, so you mean to tell me if I pay hundreds of dollars to go to the baseball game and my mama texts me an emergency text and in that text a foul ball cracks my cranium, the first thing he rushes into is say, your fault. You don't get nothing.
Well, first of all, Juju, those tickets don't cost hundreds of dollars.
Marlins.
Seriously, suck. The Marlins should pay you to go to those games.
That's kind of his point.
Right.
Where Greg Cody would be batting cleanup.
Exactly. They might as well sign me looking at their lineup.
If you were a practice squad, though.
If you were a good hitter, you'd bat first or second, though.
It's probably true. I heard that the best hitters bat second now. I don't know where that wild rumor started.
What else do you have for us, Juju, today in the way of complaints?
Man, the complaints. One complaint has been hitting my email, my text message, my DMs all weekend. Spoiler alerts with this show, y'all. We have to do a slight better job. This is how you do a spoiler alert. Hey, guys, I'm about to talk about White Lotus. So if you haven't watched this week's episode, fast forward 15, about 2 minutes. Give a pause. And then you say how brilliant you think Buddy was in the monologue. Then you say, I saw a PP. Then you say all the things you want to say. You open the show with, now that's how it's done, Gemstones. It's like, whoa, me and my wife had it queued for later. So I'm talking about, I at least got 15 to 20 people saying, bro, you got to tell Dan for me. Do not spoiler alert this stuff. Back in the day, we had a segment on this. Stugotz was asking, when is the proper time to talk about Game of Thrones, GOT? And we landed on about Thursday was about politically correct to talk about that Sunday's episode. You dig it?
I have to get used to this because I thought we were a live show that talked about the things that had just happened. I thought that's how we were doing this. I must be some sort of dinosaur trying to do something that reacts to whatever it is just happened. That's not how we're doing it anymore.
Maybe we'll play this before spoilers.
Spoiler alert, sorry.
But we have to react to the sports that are live. And oftentimes that means we can't get to the scripted content that is also airing on the same day, right? So yeah,
I thought Billy's spoiler alert Wednesday was a good idea.
Yeah, I think so too. At least Wednesdays. Because, you know, people go on dates on Sunday nights. People work on Sunday nights. People work early Sunday mornings. Sometimes we can't expect them to see everything we see, you know what I mean, with our blessed jobs. So just respect to the audience. They definitely had a big problem with that, though.
I will take it under advisement. Polls, please. I will try to do better. We will see. I was defiant yesterday. We will see.
I'm looking at your eyes right now. It doesn't seem like you're going to try that hard.
We'll see.
Whose apologies worse, Stan's, Greg's, or Draymond Green's?
I will try to do better.
Yeah, anybody who says I will take that under advisement doesn't give a shit.
Also, before the polls, we got to put a little bit more respect on Theo Pinson's name. I heard you say they're giving everybody podcasts, but Theo Pinson, national champion Theo Pinson, went undrafted and still had a 5-year NBA career, Theo Pinson. That's less role model levels, you feel me? We salute people with way less on their resume than that, you feel me? So salute to the big dog, Theo Pinson. I see you, big bro.
I didn't really get from anybody other than the nominee of us a podcast that would be less listened to than Byron Scott is what it is that Chris Cody got in the mix.
I just was like, when I saw that, I was just
well,
like,
but
wow.
I wanted other nominees there. I wanted other actual nominees because Juju's right. That's a slight at Theo Pinson. Theo Pinson has done something that not all of us have done, but Chris Cody's reaction to us playing Theo Pinson sound was, who's Theo Pinson? That was a legitimate question he was asking.
Mm-hmm, the Iceman.
No, not the Iceman.
Let's play a sound here from Tony earlier in the show.
This was like mid-sentence. I don't know if it was a breath or a witty situation.
Let's play it against the slurp. What the Chris Whittingham slurp was, he was just gulping a bubble of air. Oh, that's aggressive.
Yeah, I mean, that's nothing's going to beat this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
But Tony has, second place, third place in the slurp category in the last couple of weeks.
Hey,
That's more of a spitball.
Like you're talking and like something gets caught in your throat.
I need the full context of that. I don't know what that is.
All right, we'll see
What
if
was
we can
that?
find it. It sounded like you're slurping saliva, like you got some saliva in your mouth. That's what it sounds like.
You can hear the end of it, a little breath, like a little air coming up.
I think I was
I
done
gotta
dirty
ease
there.
up on my boy Tony, man. Ease up on my dog.
I don't know
man.
what
Not
happened.
too
to
much
Juju.
on
Again,
my dog.
Juju, we need the full context of what's going on here. This could be somebody else's noise
No,
that they're attributing to me.
No,
I don't
that
know.
sounds like you. It's not. No, you have not been framed by others on the show.
Wouldn't be the first time.
What do we got for polls today, Juju?
We only had one poll that I put up today, so I'm gonna recap the polls for the last couple of days. We also had one questionable poll, which, sometimes we say stuff in our show, but when you read it online, it doesn't read as well. You know what I mean? That's why I'm more so of like a call person. I would love a 2-minute call versus a text message, because I want you to hear me put the right emphasis on the right syllables. You did good. So we're gonna go to the poll from Monday. If you had 10 Reese's peanut butter cups every day for 10 years, would they disgust you?
That was shocking to learn about Coach L.
Right. 66% of the audience says yes, they would disgust them. Should they do playoff golf at a putt-putt course? 82% of the audience says yes, they should. Do you remember the phone number of your original home? 88% of the audience says yes, they do.
Wow. Surprised.
Do you know any phone numbers? 86% of the audience says yes, they do.
What's the over-under on that? If I asked the audience and we came back with a median, I'm guessing under on 5. I put the number on 5. Do you bet over-under the average person knows 5 telephone numbers?
I was going to put it
in
at
their
3.5.
phone?
I feel like 5 is a lot nowadays. Maybe I'm wrong.
You think it's too high?
I think everybody knows the immediate family. The wife, the kids.
No, if you've been
partner.
grandfathered in on having to know it, maybe. But I don't. I'm guessing there's a whole generation of people who don't know any phone numbers. Why would they have
Right.
to?
I put it at 1.5, 1.5, with that one being their phone number.
We have some context here from Lewis, who's always trying to help Tony as an ally. So let's see the video and the context that Tony requests.
They throw a pass, gets bobbled 8 times.
That seems like it's edited. That doesn't seem that that's fair in any way.
That's the sound of the pass.
That's the sound of the pass hitting the. They throw a pass, gets bobbled 8 times. They throw a pass, gets bobbled
What
8
is
times.
that?
Wait, so it actually is better
They
for
throw
Tony.
a pass, gets bobbled 8 times.
Because it wasn't just a hiccup. It was him, like, doing
It was
what
me
a...
throwing the Hail Mary for
to do
Alabama
it.
State.
I like it. It was a
They
sound
throw
effect.
a pass, gets bobbled 8 times.
It was presented to me like, hey, we got him here. He had a hiccup.
Imagine
midway.
that, Dan. The haters.
Framed. He was indeed framed.
Is that what the pass sounded like?
Yeah, because when you throw it out of your hands, whoosh,
I usually go.
exactly, put some mustard on.
I'm
it.
more of a...
That's the sound of mustard hitting. When you squeeze it out of the bottle and you really.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Does everyone have the sniffles now? 82% of the audience says
That's
yes, they
alarming.
do.
That's disconcerting. It's disconcerting.
Those are your polls.
Thanks, Juju.
For sure. Look, the questionable poll I
what
didn't
was that
read
one?
was, is the key to March Madness white guys? We don't need that to come back either way.
Admit it. Admit it.
You see a backdoor cut from a guy from Yale, you're like, yeah,
Yeah.
hell yeah,
Right through.
I'm locked in.